hit record highs. Overall, the U.S. economy continues to surge forward despite economists' dire predictions. America's GDP grew to $25 trillion last year. Texas has a bigger economy than Russia, and although California is routinely rebuked by right-wing critics, it has the fourth strongest economy in the world, stronger than Britain's, France's, Canada's, or India's. The United States and its European allies collectively run an economic machine that doubles China's stagnating output. Despite record debt levels, a stubborn case of inflation, and other structural challenges, American capitalism continues to drive and dominate the world economy. Though a fulsome defense of Uncle Sam often requires dialectical thinking, but remember this. Even with all of its failings, America has fed and freed more human beings than any other country in history. And despite the blather that cable news hosts spit at you daily, your country is doing pretty damn well. And I think it's fair to say Joe Biden has led that international effort.
Well, he certainly has. I mean, this is something I was also saying during the Trump administration, during the Obama administration, during the Bush administration. I've been saying for quite some time, not on the foreign policy side, because I will say on the foreign policy side, Joe Biden has done extraordinarily well. Afghanistan, the one challenge, which I discuss also in this column, it was done. It was promised by the past three presidents to do the same thing. And 70% of Americans supported Joe Biden doing that when he did it. Even 55% of Americans supported him after he did it. The purpose, though, of this column wasn't to talk about Joe Biden or Donald Trump or anybody else. It was to talk about America. John Meacham, as I was going through the 4th of July reading, it was 75% of Americans think we're going in the wrong direction. I could find another poll, though, that says 75% of Americans say their economic standing is good or excellent right now. And there's this bizarre disconnect between perception and reality. I also go down so many things in this column about, for instance, Republicans now have become the new lefties, trashing, college campuses, doing everything but taking over, presidents' offices in universities, despite the fact every year our universities and colleges are ranked the best in the world, and the most powerful people in the world desperately try to get their children into our universities. The smartest kids on the planet come to our universities, and yet they're constantly trashed as woke and weak. And we hear all of this, John, and there's just a massive disconnect. The fact is the United States is the most powerful, most productive, most successful country on the planet. And yet we never hear that from our politicians year in and year out.
Welcome to another episode of the Nick and CJ show. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, Nick?
Man, what's poppin', my friends, my family? Welcome back to another fantastic week of RBN. And I'm glad that we both witnessed that segment. And you see that segment right there is exactly why I say the United States is the most propagandized country in the world. You have a millionaire that is funded by billionaires, telling workers that the pain and suffering that you feel, victims of state violence, that the crimes committed against them is not a big deal. Now, if you have to even write this article, you are full of shit. If you have to wag your finger and tell people, you're doing great, shut the fuck up, stop complaining, then that means your premise is full of shit. Your premise is full of shit. And now, we thought Democrats was cringe before. Wait until the election comes, because you know why this article was written, right? Mm-hmm. The election's around the corner, and the ruling party is, and this goes to Trump as well. Go for Barack Obama, go for Joe Biden, go for George W. Bush. When you're the ruling party power, your job is to ignore the pain and suffering and pretend everything's okay. And that's what we're gonna see the Democrats do and double down on. You have AOC, whose biggest criticism of Joe Biden, CJ. You know what? You want to know what AOC's biggest criticism of Joe Biden is? I don't know if you saw that clip of her endorsing Joe Biden on.
Yes, I have.
Her biggest criticism of Joe Biden is that he doesn't support the filibuster. That's her left.
That's all she can muster up. That's all she can muster up and say, which is pretty disturbing. But it just shows her full acceptance as an establishment character, because this is absolutely ridiculous. But back to the point of the video, Nick, because I wanted to bring this up. You were kind of alluded to this, but back to the video. It is election time. They did this for the midterms too. All of a sudden, the IRA is a great climate bill. All of a sudden, Joe Biden is doing this, and it's like none of these things are when the PR arm of the ruling class, which is the media, when they start saying messaging, that just literally means they're not changing anything tangibly. You just need to flip up your propaganda. And just think about this, Nick. If you won $1 million, you're living good. Do I have to tell you living good? Or aren't you experiencing you're living good? But these people are trying to tell us you're living good. You just don't know you're living good. And that's the experience of the professional managerial class and the ruling class who Joe Scarborough represents.
Yeah. I actually kind of want to get back to that segment as well, because I love how like Mika introduced it. And to your point, Mika mentioned before, and she had a fraudulent slip where she said it's the job of the media to control how you think. You guys remember that?
I remember
the famous quote from Mika, where she accidentally said the quiet part aloud. She said, "It's our job to control how people think." So you want to know what the message that Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough want to send to people, to working class people who are struggling? Quit your whining. America's doing damn well. So it'd be one thing if you are delusional, like Joe Scarborough, and you just have this take. But that's not what this article is. That's not what this segment is. This segment is saying, shut the fuck up, stop complaining. Things are great. Shut the fuck up, stop complaining. You're doing well. What do you want to do? Help Trump by saying that you're struggling? Now,
so ridiculous.
I kind of want to get back to the video segment, because I remember when she introduced it, she was like, "This is a great article. I loved it." Of course, you loved it, Mika.
You wanted me to bring this back up? Is that what you mean?
We'll bring it up. But you guys see the Twitter here, the tweet, absolutely ratioed to death. Ratioed to absolute utter oblivion. Because when you are this out of touch, when you're this tone deaf, when you this much of a state propagandist like Joe Scarborough, you unite everybody. Like, there are people in the right that are attacking this tweet and some of them have replies I find kind of cringe, but they're destroying this guy. And then there are a lot of people on the left, like friends I know here, that you're gonna see in most of my replies here. That's crushing them. I'm gonna show you a few headlines, and then we get back to the video segment. And I kind of want to let it play, because I think it speaks for itself, CJ. Then we can comment afterwards if you want.
Absolutely.
Here's a few headlines. This is Spit and Venom's a mutual of mine on Twitter. In response to this garbage article, which is alone refutes it. I want to watch the video, because it also shows that this is also Joe Scarborough is a master propagandist. Like, there's multiple reasons why he's writing this article. This is also a Western chauvinist foreign policy propaganda piece as well. Because you notice in that piece, they talk about, we the best in the world did, China having a struggle, Russia having a struggle, the U.S. is on top, everything's going great, Biden united NATO. So on face, it looks like he's just wagging at poor people, but it serves so many functions. One of them is propping up Western regimes as well. Another purpose that this article has is to teach the shitty propagandists how they're supposed to speak. Like, I'm talking about what's that? I'm blanking like that YouTube.
David Pacman?
David Pacman. You knew exactly what I was talking about. You know, I blinked on his name, but you knew exactly what I was talking about. There are amateur show propagandists. Like, when you look at Pacman, he's a fucking amateur. Everyone sees through him. Now, people see through Joe Scarborough, but Joe Scarborough have a top target audience that this shit works spectacularly for. So when he write this article, he like, guys, he whipping the troop in order. Guys, this should be our messaging heading in 2024. Get on board, or you're going to be left behind. What do I mean by left behind? Well, the media don't have to like quiz these people on how good they are at providing establishment narratives. But Joe Scarborough makes around. I did the math. I punched it in the books because everyone was posting in his salary after he posted this. Joe Scarborough is like Rachel Maddow territory, guys. You know that? He makes around $50,000. Well, he makes $500,000 a month. No, yeah, $500,000 a month, $500,000 a month. So he's making around $40,000 an episode, right? My math that shitty. Yeah, like he's making around 50 grand an episode, around the amount that Rachel Maddow is making. And he make that money because he's good at affirming establishment narratives. So that what this article is also about. But this is like this headline destroy his talking point. More Americans are struggling to pay the bills. Who is suffering the most? And there are also stories of Americans 3 out of 4 living paycheck to paycheck. Here I'll read a few more. Private bankruptcy filings are blowing past their COVID era peaks as credit stress builds for small businesses. A few more eviction filings are up 50%. Bro, me and CJ had to move, right? JB, exactly. We had 3 fundraisers for housing this year. JB, we had to do fundraiser for JB. But Joe Scarborough telling y'all to stop whining, right? Eviction filings. I had a brother that lived with me before I moved who was evicted. These are things that ordinary working class people struggle through. Now, even if you're not evicted, you know someone who is. Like I provide housing for 2 other people who otherwise would have been homeless if it weren't for this. So yeah, evictions are up. 70% of Americans are feeling financially stressed. But in this segment, the video segment, we can go back to it. Actually, we can go back to it. You see, Joe Scarborough cherry picks one confusing ass poll. We said up to 70% of Americans said, yeah, we're financially okay. Imagine the Weasley fucking way you have to ask that question to get Americans to say that, because that's what polling all is. This way you ask a question in a way to get the answer you want. And after trying so many different ways, like, you know, how many polls you see when Americans say they're struggling? After answering this question 1,000 different times, one pollster found one way to ask the question where people say, I guess I'm doing okay. And they were, how you doing financially? They were like, I guess I'm doing okay. Oh, it's 70 Americans. Okay. Yeah, see what he did in the segment there? But see that you can chime in. I've been ranting. You can chime in. I'm gonna get back to the video.
No, to your point, because that was the first thing I was gonna bring up. I was like, what poll is he talking about where 70% of Americans are saying they are financially okay? Because this is how sort of the shifting of austerity happens, is that they cut shit, they do shit or there's inflation, prices, they suppress wages. You know, there's a combination of things to bring economic pain to the working class. They do that, and then they go, basically, are you dead though? Did you die? You know that meme? Did you die? Like, as long as you didn't die, then everything's okay. And that's sort of like the lens they want you to view it as. It's like, there's bigger things. Okay, you're struggling, but there's bigger things like freedom going on in the world, and that's what we have to do. Just suck it up. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's the whole sort of understanding. And to me, all of this comes from slavery. It's the understanding of slavery. It's like you're enslaved. You're raping my wife. You're doing this, and it's. Did you die? Well, thank God you're not dead. And it's the same sort of psychological sort of like just manipulation of a person who is being under distress. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is a segment I saw, and I'm gonna skip past a lot of stuff that we already covered. But there's a lot to say on this segment, so I'm gonna get into it.
Well, let me say this, Nick.
Go ahead.
I was trying to find, because I saw this whole segment. The entire segment I could have played as an intro.
Yeah.
But I was like, damn, let me see. Let me narrow this down to 3.5 minutes. But I'm glad that you brought up some of this other pieces, especially with this guy. I think is that David Ignatius that the first guy that they were.
Dude, everyone they have on Joe Scarborough is a swamp monster, dude.
That's what I'm saying. He's a top propagandist. He's the type of propagandist that goes on flights with politicians because they're that comfortable that he's gonna toe this establishment line, and that's who this guy is. But go ahead, Nick.
Your intro was a great intro to the madness of this segment, but and we said a lot here, so I'm gonna let a lot of it speaks for itself here. So I'm gonna fast forward some part that we covered already, but I want you guys to see the enthusiasm of Mika when introducing this article that this show is sure is going to be a banger. Like, for one, 0.5% chance that Joe Scarborough wrote this shit. By the way, I'm not even evidence for this, but if you guys think this motherfucker is writing these articles, you guys are your goddamn mind. He was just on vacation. Like they were just on vacation traveling. They have ghostwriters. Somebody wrote this article and they did a segment to celebrate it. Hey, look, Joe Scarborough did something. He actually wrote something. And then based on their coverage in this segment, it's completely different from the perception that people got in reality after seeing the article, because he's getting racial to death. This article is so garbage that Joe Scarborough was trending on Twitter. And people were just,
what?
I don't know if you saw this, but he was trending
I didn't see that part. No, I didn't see that part.
Very briefly for maybe like an hour window. I called it. I'm lucky I called it. Where Joe Scarborough trending. Everyone would just shit on him for this. It's like everyone. Meanwhile, look at how they presented on this show. Everyone in the political universe hated this article except their fucking studio. Listen to this.
In the Atlantic, it's out just moments ago, and it's on my favorite topic, which is
one of her favorites. Mika, like, I love this shit stuff. We all wag our finger at pores. Nigga, I'm tired of other shit. This is what I live for, right here. So,
where America stands with the world as the NATO summit starts. And you write this, America is doing just fine. You argue, quote, Uncle Sam deserves a modern day Atticus Finch to argue his case before the American people. And you also write in part, quote, liberals once gained favor among their base by attacking the Pentagon's top brass. But now it is Republican members of Congress who longingly swoon over Russia's manly military while trashing U.S. generals and our men and women in uniform. Those GOP attacks come despite the fact that America's military is more powerful today relative to the rest of the world than at any time since the Second World War.
Can you pause it there? We stopped at the same time.
No, my bad. We had literally the same timing. Go ahead, CJ. I'll pass you first.
No, I was just going to say, you have to listen closely to propaganda and the words and the placement of words. The key word, and one of the key words in that sentence, relatively. That's what they're saying. Relative. So based on the condition that every other country's in, that pretty much the United States have a hand in putting them in that condition, relative to everybody else, this is our most powerful time. Meanwhile, Nick, they're running out of ammunition, and that's why they're doing this cluster munition going on. You get what I'm saying? Like it's like they're saying two different things at the same time. Go ahead. I know you want to chime in too.
And it's funny when establishment people have to acknowledge something that we've been talking about for a while, and they say like it's a bad thing. They're like, you notice how the right are the new liberals? The right is criticizing the military. That means the liberals are military bootlickers? So based on your ideology, no one can criticize the military. You have to see how unhinged and how fascist they are once you unpack it. No one can criticize the military, according to you guys. And then what they say, I'm gonna dare say what a lot of people may consider controversial. Our military not shit. Our military not shit. And if you like, Nick, what are you talking about? What war have we won in my lifetime? What war have we won in my dad's lifetime? Don't worry, I'll wait. We haven't won one fucking war. We hadn't accomplished one military objective that we actually had. That was openly spoken, I should say. We lost the war on terror in Afghanistan. We completely destabilized Iraq. We lost the Korean War. We lost the Vietnam War. In what universe did the United States military effective? The U.S. military is not strong. The U.S. military is filled with monsters. The U.S. military don't accomplish their geopolitical agenda. What they do is they go and kill a shit ton of civilians. They kill civilians.
We have to ask then, Nick. We have to ask, what is their criteria for saying that the military is good? Because it's not wins and losses. You get what I'm saying? It's not wins and losses. It's something else. So what is that something? If you're thinking from a capitalist lens, it's getting resources.
Absolutely.
So it's the most successful at going in and stealing resources. And again, we have to understand the perspective of which Morning Joe speaks. It is from the ruling class perspective, and that's the win for them. It is not what we think as a win. It's like, well, obviously it's wins and losses. You know what I'm saying? Like basketball is obviously, let me see a column of wins. Let me see a column of losses. It's like, no. You see LeBron? He makes $100 million a game, whether he wins or lose. You get what I'm saying? And that's sort of how they look at it. Go ahead.
That's a fantastic point. I'm gonna continue the video. That's a great point in on because that is their goal. When it's seizing assets of a country, that's when capitalism had to look abroad. Late stage capitalism, how capitalism is connected to imperialism. So they are like when you look at arms profits, when you look at the amount of money they made, that's all that matters to them. That's actually a great point, and that's why this Ukraine war for them is a win-win because they working backwards from their conclusion regarding cluster bombs, and you see this in media, everyone justifying why we had to use. Well, we got to use cluster bombs for this reason. No, the reason they use a cluster bomb because they need to sell more fucking bombs. They don't give a fuck what bombs it is. They want to sell weapons. The United States is a glorifying arms dealer, and they're gonna work backward from that conclusion. Anyway, let's continue the video. I can run on that all day, so let's continue.
Unlike in years past, American allies no longer grouse about the U.S. leading from behind or burrowing itself into a self-defeating America first hole.
I promise you, boo-boo. I swear this on my fucking life. The majority of the world population is not looking at the United States to get more involved in other countries. If you poll the majority of the global population, I promise you that their criticism of America is not the fact that they're not doing enough in the world. And that's what she's saying here. What the modern liberal believe is that America should go out in front and be the police of the world, and that's what other countries want. And based on how the United States lost position in globally, lost respect a lot of allies like India, Brazil, and many others, lost many countries in the global south, what she is saying is clearly not fucking true. What she's saying that people want America involved. Absolutely absurd. Anyway, let's continue. This article is a deal.
Instead, the U.S. is first among equals in a dynamic and expanding NATO alliance that just...
We already played the full clip, so this part I actually need to break down a lot here because I know this is absurd to us, but this is high-level propaganda here. The United States, everything they're saying is they are not first among equals. The United States runs this shit. And if you don't fall behind regarding what the United States want, you are done. You'll be ruined politically. You'll be ruined financially. And there was a German politician who talked about this. They will ruin your fucking life if you don't support the United States position, if you're a German, French, UK politician, etc., etc. But anyway, let's continue. Well, I'm going to keep my introduction short, but there's so much bullshit to say in this article. We already played a long form in the intro, but now we got to do direct response to some of this nonsense.
Just added a new member with more than 800 miles of Russian border, and that has provided a devastating response to Vladimir Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine.
Can you pause it there? Do you see how a top win or goal, however you want to describe it, is having another 800 miles of border where NATO is right at the border of Russia? But then they want to act like they're not a murderous, like, absolutely. Why is that a thing? Why is that a thing? Is if you're offensive, why is that a thing? That's only a thing if you're out to like sort of take over the world, and that's serious. Like if you're out to take over the world. Exactly. And it shows it another in this same segment towards the end. It shows when the historian talks about, look at that map, because they're in awe at the map of NATO expansion. Like, look how that's magnificent. How they're talking about it. So, but go ahead.
The same way Napoleon used to feel when you look at his maps, right? Yes. Look at this conquest, glorious conquest. You had national security experts, people who are significantly to our right, who pre-Ukraine invasion, they used to get seminar and lectures about the importance of having buffer states like Ukraine, Finland, and Sweden. It serves everybody's best interest to have these buffer states, and the West was all for this. Now the West completely lost their mind, and they want to expand NATO because they need to expand weapon sales. All countries had to produce weapons when they're NATO members. That is what this is about. Nothing else. Not about freedom, not about democracy. And now let's get to the point. This is what I want to chime in on. When you look at it, said NATO, we got 800 miles on the Russian border now. And that is a devastating response to Putin's illegal invasion. Why is that a devastating response? Mm-hmm. Why should Putin feel upset about this? It's almost like having NATO encroachment and 800 miles on the border is a provocative, threatening act because NATO is warmongering criminals. Right. So what they say is Putin has no right to invade Ukraine. Yeah, and the narrative that Russian national security was at risk because of NATO expansion is bullshit. But here they are bragging about it. Here, if Russia needs NATO on their border and they are that big of a threat to have NATO on their border, of course Russia will feel upset when you have Western military access getting close to the border and going after ethnic Russians. But they also deny this whenever we bring up the fact that, and Dr. Cornel West had a tweet earlier today where he brings up how NATO encroachment is escalating this war. And they're like, oh my God, why are you saying that? They're just putting propaganda. But here you're just admitting it right here. You're doing it just to fuck with Putin. And I heard many public officials, many people in position of power who openly admit that, CJ. Yeah, we want to fuck with Putin. This is a big loss for Putin. We want to expand NATO border just so it'd be a loss for Putin. So you're proving him right at the end of the day regarding the NATO threat. They don't even realize that they're proving his position right. But anyway, I'll ran enough. Let's continue. There are lots of
Looking east, the United States has finally begun its pivot to Asia, strengthening military cooperation with Japan, the Philippines, Guam, South Korea, and Australia. The current disruption.
That's for war. That's for preparation of war. That's not extending some sort of like friendship. You are reaching out to these countries to have bases there, to have other like artillery where people they can come and refuel and get more ammunition for preparation of war. But you see how they mask it as, oh, you know, we're just buddies. We're pivoting to Asia because we're friends. We like them. That's it. And that's not at all what this is about. Go ahead.
Remember, I told you guys this article serves multiple purposes. This is the empire propaganda leg of the article. Not only meant to shame you into thinking the country is great, but also to reaffirm United States national security talking points. Why are we talking about these Asian countries? What that has to do with the state of America right now? And there was multiple articles written about how China's growing relationship with Cuba is a national security threat. So it's a national security threat to have Cuba and China have relationships. But the United States have begun to pivot to Asia? What are you talking about? Like, based on what your guys' logic is, that means the United States is escalating in China.
Australia.
Now, I'm going to continue this part.
Disruption
Listen to this part.
U.S.-Sino relations may have less to do with spy balloons and diplomatic missteps than with Xi Jinping's rational fear of being hemmed in by an increasingly muscular U.S. military presence surrounding the South China Sea.
CJ, when they said this part, watching the segment, my jaw dropped because I'm like, you guys just said it. And then Joe Scarborough, or his ghostwriter, literally says that Xi Jinping has a rational fear. Not irrational. They say yes, rational. Because the United States is building military bases, openly being hostile to their country. And then whenever China responds, it's, oh my God, China, you guys are out of line. And all the Western chauvinists that believe that the United States should never allow opposition. I'm talking about the Monroe Doctrine, which is dominant among military thinking, is dominant among the ruling class. They just don't say it because we know the term. So we got to change the term. We can't say Monroe Doctrine, but they believe in that shit. That's why they panicking about Chinese influence in Cuba, and also they was panicking when they wanted to overthrow Nicolas Maduro because he was friendly with Russia. It's a legitimate belief that no opposition should be able to operate in our hemisphere. Monroe Doctrine, American excellence, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, Joe Scarborough is cheering on muscular U.S. military presence in the South China Sea. And I'm asking you, Bob and Susie, Jill and Brandon, who lives in America, what the fuck are we doing in the South China Sea? And how does it relate to our interest? It doesn't. That's them purposely trying to fuck with Taiwan, if you don't know. Anyway, let's continue.
President Joe Biden's recent diplomatic overtures toward
I'm gonna just simulate. I'm gonna skim a few this year, because I think we played a few of this. They talking about how, and this is the ridiculousness that we were trying to explain to Dr. Cornel West. I love the way that you put it, because they talk about childhood poverty dropping. How can you drop childhood poverty without addressing parenthood poverty? I love that point that you constantly hammer home. Oh, the household is a poverty, but the child's okay. Get the fuck out of here. How does that even make sense?
It doesn't. This is what capitalists do. They know that capitalism is not going to reach a certain segment, so they have to kind of carve out and create these sort of niches that say this says this and that, just how they say unemployment rate means something good about the economy. Really? How can you say that when you're not even talking about the wages for those jobs? Because 14 million minimum wage jobs, that's not good. You get what I'm saying? So, but just it's like they're creating an illusion of success, and that's what cutting childhood poverty is. Go ahead.
Actually, I'll let this part play because I want to address this part. At this part, I'm sending through the part we did in the intro. But listen to this part.
While the U.S. economy continues to surge forward despite economists' dire predictions. America's GDP grew to $25 trillion last year. Texas has a bigger economy than Russia, and although California is routinely rebuked by right-wing critics, it has the fourth strongest economy in the world, stronger than Britain's, France's, Canada's, or India's. The United States and its European allies collectively run an economic machine that doubles China's stagnating output.
China's stagnating output. You guys see this, the next, these two paragraphs here is they bragging about how powerful the American economy is. Now, you guys understand that Marxists will agree with you, right? On literally everything you just said here. But the reason why you have to write this article is that despite the fact that the American economy is powerful as fuck, people don't feel it. Like, how do you not realize this flaw in your thinking? Yeah, the American economy is so powerful, it's so strong. California, the fourth leading economy in the world, but we got Skid Row. But y'all don't got healthcare in California. So you guys know this is the Marxist critique, right? That you guys have all these resources, but you're not lifting people out of poverty? They said it doubles China's stagnating output. I don't give a fuck what China's output is, how many people they lift out of poverty. They got people in houses. They got great infrastructure, great healthcare. They got amazing public transportation. They got high-speed rail where you can get from the west of China to the far east of China, 12-hour train trip. You can just jump on that bitch, CJ, for a few $100s. But CJ, can you imagine if I could just jump on a high-speed rail and we can do Nick and CJ in 3 hours?
Yeah.
You guys realize that China is living in that future? Do you know that future world that I saw growing up watching the Jetsons? Then you can jump on a high-speed train, be across the goddamn country by the end of the day. Then we can have RBN lives all the goddamn time. I mean, I'm talking about live lives. That's in China.
Yeah, in person.
You have no idea what's going on in China right now. The amazing infrastructure. I had professors that live in China. I used to talk to them all the time. Like, they're like, Americans have no idea the kind of conveniences that we have.
Because Nick, the people who are telling us that the economy is good are the capitalists, are essentially the owners. So they are picking what we use as markers to say this is successful. We would have completely different sort of thresholds and markers from a worker's point of view. The first marker would be, Nick, do we have a living wage? That is a marker of a successful economy. But if a successful economy, and I'm going to give another sports analogy, successful economy to an owner is we got 10 players. 3 of them are making the most money out of all the players in the NBA, and everybody else is breaking nothing. But 2 of our players are making the most money. LeBron is making $100 million, and Kyrie Irving is making $75 million. That's more than everybody else. The other 12 people on the team, they're making minimum wage. But the marker is who has the most money. You get what I'm saying? And we have to understand everything we hear, everything from people. This is why people, Nick, find it so hard to understand why the United States is bad and all these things that we talk about, is that everywhere they turn, they're getting the same message. So they don't understand because the owners and capitalists own everything. They own the newspapers. They own the magazines. They own the reporters. So all those perspectives. So you're thinking like, well, New York Times said the economy's good. Joe Scarborough said the economy's good. Yeah, I'm broke and I'm struggling, but I guess everybody else is doing good, so it must be good. That is what they're trying to perpetuate on this. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna let it play for a bit. We're almost done with the segment. We'll wrap the segment up. But this article, as I showed you guys, was absolutely ratio to oblivion on Twitter with the right, the left. just anyone who could read, seeing this article, like, dude, you're a piece of shit. Fuck you. Right? But you want to see how they talk about this article that was completely toasted by the general populace. This is their breakdown of this article. I'm gonna play this part and then we can write the segment.
Your country is doing pretty damn well. And I think it's fair to say Joe Biden has led that international effort.
Well, he certainly has. I mean, this is something I was also saying during the Trump administration, during the Obama administration, during the Bush administration. I've been saying for quite some time, not on the foreign policy side, because I will say on the foreign policy side, Joe Biden has done extraordinarily well. Afghanistan, the one challenge, which I discuss also in this column, it was done. It was promised by the past three presidents to do the same thing.
So what I would call his weakest point, the commander-in-chief, his weakest point is foreign policy. Joe Scarborough saying it's good. Now, I want you guys to realize the only thing he criticized Joe Biden on is pulling out Afghanistan. And the right meltdown about this, and this exposed the quote-unquote anti-war right, because my question to people who believe that Biden's pull out of Afghanistan was horrible is, what is their suggestion? Because based on what they want us to stay there because that war was already lost. The second the United States pulled out of Afghanistan, the Taliban taken over. So what people who criticize Biden for pulling out of Afghanistan saying is that we don't pull out of Afghanistan until the Taliban is defeated, which means never. So Joe Scarborough is essentially saying Joe Biden's only flaw is that he did commit to a forever war with Afghanistan. Unbelievable. And not just his position, that is position of the right wing as well. Because you see right wingers criticizing more Afghanistan. The only thing that Biden don't deserve criticism on. You know what Biden deserves criticism on regarding Afghanistan? Is keeping sanctions and stealing billions of dollars of Afghanistan civilian money, which led to millions of them starving. But that's not his criticism. It's just not running a forever war. But anyway, let's continue. I'm gonna write the segment soon.
And 70% of Americans supported Joe Biden doing that when he did it. Even 55% of Americans supported him after he did it. The purpose, though, of this column wasn't to talk about Joe Biden or Donald Trump or anybody else. It was to talk about America. John Meacham, as I was going through the 4th of July reading, it was 75% of Americans think we're going in the wrong direction.
I just want to hear from him, and then we can wrap the segment up. I just want to show you guys how crazy this guy is.
I can find another poll, though, that says 75% of Americans say their economic standing is good or excellent.
Whatever the fuck that means.
And there's this bizarre disconnect between perception and reality. I also go down so many things in this column about, for instance, Republicans now have become the new lefties, trashing, college campuses, doing everything but taking over, presidents' offices. I'm going to get to the way guys talk. We heard this part.
Well, I think one of the great disconnects that you've pointed out is between people who talk about these things publicly, people who poll on them, and then in a cycle then talk about the polling results, and what people genuinely think.
By the way, and you mentioned before how John Meacham is one of the biggest propagandists that there are. You want to know how you know someone's a propagandist? Look at their damn title. This man is a presidential historian. That is a professional managerial class bullshit. So I'm a presidential historian as well, guys. You want to know my analysis of presidents? They're all fucking war criminals. There it is. That's all you need to know.
It's like saying he's a political influencer. He might as well just say that. You're a political influencer.
That's like the people who call themselves disinfo experts. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
That's not a job, man.
Well, so when you call yourself a presidential historian, are you like a leading, or do you lead the New York Times and selling books on president's life and history? Like, well, why do you give yourself that title? Like, you're here. And I'm gonna tell you what that title really means. You're here to bullshit and lie and cover up the truth of American history. I promise you, this is the kind of motherfucker he's gonna be talking about. He talked about Ronald Reagan in good graces. He talked about every single president in good graces. That is what the establishment presidential historian is here to do. Their job is to rewrite history and tell you these stories about how presidents are actually better than they actually are. That's why Noam Chomsky he really sent a shockwave in political discourse when he said that every single president, at least since the 60s, should be tried as a war criminal. The last 11 U.S. presidents should be war criminals. And that was like, what? And then everyone was shocked. You know why? Because they're used to the presidential historians like John Meacham coming on and tell you how great Bill Clinton was. So that's the real thing. I need to stop ranting because this segment going a little long, but I'll wrap up after the last part.
And my own sense is that part of the wages of having such a radically polarized political class, which is to say those who have an economic, cultural, and often ideological stake in an unfolding political drama, because of that polarization, it's not in anyone's interest to say what you just said. Because what's interesting about, hey, everything's good. Yeah, there are problems. We should work on it. That's not going to get people.
There are problems, and we should work on it. That's how he described 2 out of 3 Americans living paycheck to paycheck. That's how you describe millions homeless. That's how you describe at least 70,000 Americans dying each year because they don't have health care. Always got problems to work on.
That's always the point of view, but that's always the point of view. It's that George Floyd can't, but yeah, everything's okay. It's just we got we got a little things to work on, because it's always from the point of view who their lives are good. So to them, a few million homeless, we're still good, because I look at my 401k, look at Wall Street. So something's going good, and that's the perspective. And this is why we always preach against the professional managerial class, because some of that creeps into the left too, and they're just doing things for their class. But go ahead, I'm going off on the tangent.
Yeah, we can wrap that segment down. We got 2 super chats I can read real quick.
Go ahead.
Now I'm gonna cover our next story. Can be covering AOC.
Good Lord,
endorsing Jim Crow Joe. So we'll watch the video on Pod Save America regarding that. It's only 1 minute clip. It's really hard to watch more than 1 minute of the AOC. But,
yes.
Thank you for $5. ARJ 1997. Bourgeoisie America is doing just fine. Joe Kaplan Scarborough. And I want to see if I can find the tweet. And the tweet is extremely interesting. It kind of shows how unserious the right is, because you see a lot of these comments, and once again, my algorithm is based, so so I always see the good left comments, but I scroll and I'll see like right-wing comments every once in a while. I wonder if I can find some here, because when you look at my based ass audience, all of them are like, that's me saying state media propaganda garbage. Look, all the people with my mutual who I follow, they point out the fact that people are fucking struggling here. People are fucking struggling. And then there's right wingers that pretending that Joe Scarborough is like some sort of socialist in the comments as well. But this is the one this is what getting the most likes. So I was doing on top of my head. What's 20? 5 days a week for the
that's 20 working days in a month. And how much does he make?
500K divided by
20.
500,000 divided by 20. I'm just trying to figure out how much you make per episode. It's 25. So around 25. And by the way, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski do not work 20 days a week. Like they just came on vacation. They only had sub days. So assuming they working this schedule, they're making around $25,000 a year, right? I mean, $25,000 a day, not a year. $25,000 per day, and that would mean people on the level point out. And this is the guy that's here to tell you that everything is going okay as well. Like this guy, this person had the same.
I don't think I've seen that tweet until this episode. So they get destroyed in there. Is that Joe Scarborough? I'm gonna go look at it. Is that Joe Scarborough himself?
Yeah, he tweeted out as well. He tweeted because he thought his article was a banger, so he tweeted out 1.6 million views. So a lot of people saw it. Rachel to death. Rachel to death. I'm trying to see if I can find here. Look, here it is. This guy said, "Sounds like communist propaganda." Now, there's not a lot of analytical value. I just find it fucking hilarious how right-wingers absolutely cannot diagnose the problem. They think the problem is that Joe Scarborough is some sort of fucking communist. And that's why he's telling poor people to be okay with their wages being stolen. Absolutely. So anyway, I find that funny. This is the one I did see. If you scroll out more, there are a ton of right wingers roasting him, pretending he's a socialist or whatever. Anyway, it's just funny.
I'm looking through the responses right now. The thing is, all it takes, Nick, is for one ruling class member to be like, that was a banger ass article, and he's gonna forget all the people in the comments who are saying any of that stuff. They really don't care if they don't view you as equal, or if they view you as below, and you have an opinion. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, well,
especially if you see through their shit. If you see through their shit, they view you as like a number. Like, oh, they see through my shit. They're not part of my reachable audience. Fuck them. You don't give a fuck. They being Rachel. He glad that he got praised.
But who is he gonna reach with this? Who like? Because I'm trying to think. A person who's actually struggling, could they be convinced, or is it just people that's kind of like on the lower end, not quite struggling, but right at the edge? You get what I'm saying?
Remember, this article is also a way to teach propagandists on how to talk about this country right now. If you go buy and run for re-election, and remember the kind of people that read the Atlantic, like I'm talking about, like seriously, like they think they're getting real news, are the petite bourgeoisie and the ruling class. So they read this article and they're like, oh yeah, it helps them feel better about the ill-gotten means. So it serves so many different purposes. That's why they got audience in general. That's why they got advertisers. That's why they make the big bucks, because they make the professional managerial class, the bourgeoisie, feel comfortable, which is why they can rely on their subscriptions, right? But thing for $5 is ARJ again. Ronald Reagan in the 1970s said that socialism in the United States would deny you the ability to own a yacht. I prefer Medicare for all, housing, retirement instead. Absolutely. I want my neighbors to have, like, why fucking who needs a fucking boat? Nigga, I'd rather my neighbors to have health care, rather people have housing. I'd rather be able to retire, right? But anyway, and that what people that's the bad faith capitalist criticism that I never understand. I would never understand. Like, you have people say, "Oh man, you're doing okay." I used to sell cars. I used to do okay selling cars. I told you guys before. I made more money selling cars than ever doing this. So people are like, "Oh my god, you making all this money? You got a house. You doing okay, Nick? Why are you so mad at capitalism?" Because I want my neighbor to be okay. Why do I gotta sell 15 to 20 cars a month in order to pay my fucking bills and feed myself? Someone should not have to sell 15 cars to fucking make a living. Someone shouldn't have to have a YouTube channel to fucking make a living. You should be able to be like, I want to be a laborer. I want to contribute to our society via manual labor, via feeding people, whether you can work in fast food. Any way you can contribute to society, you should be taken care of at that point. And even if you are doing well, even if I'm doing well, that's completely irrelevant, because I want everyone to do well, and I want everyone to have talent and abilities in order to accomplish that.
But are you really doing well?
Go ahead, CJ.
Are you really doing well if you're having to work 70 hours in order to make? You get what I'm saying? Like, you're trading your whole life away to work. You're trading your whole life away. So yeah, I'm a professional managerial class. I'm working 70 hours. I'm making $200K. Is that living when you're seeing other people, workers, more than your own family? And I mean, there's so many people that's in that state right now, where you literally go to work, you're at work 8-10 hours, you're at home 5 hours. You're at home where you're conscious and not sleeping. You're at home 5 hours, and that's our normal. And too many people think that's how it's supposed to be.
That's a great point, CJ, because even when I was doing well, when I was selling cars, I was working 65, 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
You know how much hour it takes to sell 20 cars, guys? I was on 20 cars a month. That shit takes a ton of fucking time.
Yeah,
a ton of paperwork.
a long time.
It's unbelievable amount of work. So even when I have money, I'm like, nigga, I'm not even hanging out with my friends. I had no life from like 23 to like 28. I had no life. I was just fucking selling cars, and I got maybe 5 holidays a year. So I do not miss those days at all. And this is a great comment by Lana. And this is why I quit my job. I don't want to go back selling cars. Even when I was doing better, I'm like, this manager is stealing my labor value. Like, it took me selling. You gotta make 10. You gotta sell 10 to 50 cars just to make a living wage. Then once you sell 15 plus, then you start getting to the money. Meanwhile, managers, right? They got BMWs. Fucking, they buy new houses. I'm like, nigga, I'm tired of you motherfuckers getting rich on my labor. I don't give a fuck. Like, and it was so obvious. And I told this story before, but there was a manager I actually like. He's another black guy, and he actually let it slip to me like, man, things are really fucked up now, man. I remember back in the day when I used to sell 10 cars. you make $100,000 a year selling cars. And I'm looking at him like, so y'all stealing our money then? So I should be. And he kind of realized he shouldn't have said that to me because we were friends. So he was getting too comfortable. He was getting too comfortable with me. He was like, man, back in my day, if you sold 10 cars, you make $100,000 a year. So y'all stealing my labor value then. And there were a lot of old school car salesman people that said, man, the whole game changed. You just don't make a lot of money doing this business. Then the managerial class came and said, no, we need more profits. And they started taking for salesmen. That's why most salesmen quit, because they're not even making a living wage. Because $80 million, we get 2%, 5% on a car deal. Anyway, I can round all day. One more super chat from Janice, and we move on to AOC. I see y'all got a slight running nose today. Hopefully, it don't affect too much. But anyway, thank you for Reagan sucks. Reagan sucked. He rebranded proven failed economic strategy, horse and shallow at trickle down. Horse and swallow was in practice. Horse and swallow at trickle down. Horse and swallow was in practice from 1880s to 1920s. Will said, Janice. What is it? We can get to the AOC.
Yeah, let me do some quick announcements. You can get the video ready if you want.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Yeah, Nick will get prepared a segment while I do a couple of announcements. Working yourself to death. I've started that to show that, and that's exactly what I was describing. Just hours of your life. I used to be that too. I was a salesman too. I was selling cell phones. I worked for all the companies. I worked for Sprint. I worked for AT&T. I worked for Verizon. Bank. Switching to bank, but no, let's stay in the cell phones, because at Bank of America I was also sales at the corporate office. But anyway, they steal your wages. Same sort of process happened with cell phones, as Nick described, how over the years the salesperson is making less and less selling, but required to sell the same or more. All right, so let me do a couple of announcements. One, make sure you go check out our website. There has been a couple of changes added. The one in particular for the Boston branch. The Boston branch is going to be cool because you can put in a ticket, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So if you're at the Boston branch or Boston chapter, I said branch, Boston chapter for RBN, how Sabby's running hers, you can come in here and do a mutual request form out of the Boston chapter. Now, all of our chapters will be doing their own thing, but this is out of the Boston chapter, and I thought it was great. So you would put all your information in, and then you would, what is this about? Is this financial literacy you need help with, STEM learning, self-care, meditation, yoga, higher education, alternative, housing and tenants rights, grow your own food, Marxist theory. So these are all things you would check, and then you would hit submit at the Boston branch. And then there's other things you can go check out on our website, but make sure you do that. Oh, I didn't even share my screen. My bad, everybody. Hang on a second. Right here, this is the mutual aid form. I forgot to hit the last button to show that. So when you go to the website, and go to the chapters. Let me go through it again. Go through the chapters. You scroll down to Sabby. This was just added for the Sabby chapter or the Boston chapter. Mutual aid request form, name, address, contact information, and then you would check. Oh, I need some financial literacy. Oh, I need to how to start a worker co-op. I need some Marxist theory. I want to grow my own food. You submit whatever you want, or check as many as you want. You hit submit, and then at the Boston chapter, they get that order or that sort of request, and then they fulfill the request. So that's something new added to our website. Our website, step by step, will be adding things, so make sure you're always checking that out. The other thing is we do have Substack. I put it in the comments, and it'll be scrolling at the bottom. Join our Substack if you want to get notifications when we go live. Don't forget, next week we got Cornel West on Wednesday, so a week from this upcoming Wednesday. And a week from today, we got the post-duopoly show. But go ahead, Nick. We can get back to the show now.
Yeah, I was happy to see Dr. Cornel West push back on NATO. RFK, this is another story we're going to do later today as well. Push back on the ridiculous NATO expansion nonsense that comes from the Biden administration. You want to know who don't have anything to say about it? Marianne Wilson. I got them things to say. RFK and Dr. Cornel West is currently being attacked relentlessly by a liberal mob from telling the truth on this war. So I'm gonna show you guys this. This is my hotspot video I made, and we can use this to lead the topic. Once again, big shout out to Nico House and
I saw that video. It's a great video.
That's helping me make the video. I think it's a good way to start the segment. So we can start it here.
AOC endorses Joe Biden. There needs to be way more anger. There needs to be way more heat on AOC and Bernie Sanders for taking working class money and then openly selling them out to the establishment. Can you imagine the heat that I would get, the heat that RBN would get if we openly endorse and then campaign for Donald Trump? So that's how I'm treating people who are endorsing Jim Crow Joe for president. So AOC, allow me to read you the record of the person that you are endorsing so enthusiastically. AOC, you're endorsing the guy who is funding ICE to record levels. Joe Biden is funding ICE $6 billion more than Donald Trump. Whatever happened to abolish ICE, AOC? These people are only immigration activists when a Republican is president. Joe Biden approved of the Willow Project. He has banned public drilling, and he is a fracker. I thought he cared about the climate, AOC. They are only climate activists when a Republican is president. Joe Biden is funding ICE more than Donald Trump. Joe Biden took COVID relief funds and sent it to the police. Joe Biden broke the railroad strike. Joe Biden is funding Nazis in Ukraine while escalating war against a global nuclear power. But this is the person you endorse, AOC? I'm not going to allow the professional managerial class to gaslight me into thinking endorsing Jim Crow Joe for president a year and a half before the election is some sort of 3D chess move. These people are here to lead workers off a cliff.
And that's what they will have us believe, CJ. According to the professional managerial class, it's 3D chess. It's calculated political maneuvering that us ridiculous dumb peasants will never understand. We will never understand why AOC made the technical decision to endorse Joe Biden. This is the narrative they want us to have. This is the narrative that they are sharing to us. That Bernie and AOC have some secret agenda, secret plan. Remember Jordan forced to vote? Well, they were like, man, we're not going to force the vote for Medicare for all. We should vote for Nancy Pelosi. Trust me, they have an inside game. You guys just don't understand it. Remember that? CJ, I don't know if you remember that. Jordan forced the vote.
I remember.
But straight up like, they don't have to follow this Jamie Dorite strategy. They actually working on ways to implement Medicare for all. 2.5 years later, 3 years? How long was the first ago?
Almost 3. Almost 3
years ago. Goddamn. So 3 years later, nowhere close to Medicare for all. Medicare for all is dead. So this is what the illusion of the professional manager class. This illusion that they have a strategy, they have a plan. RBN, we the first channel, tell you they have no fucking plan. The only plan is to lead you off a cliff for their careers. Now, before I get to the Pod Safe America clip, I want to show you guys exactly what you're endorsing because they asked me to make my videos under 90 seconds. Because that would make them good. People with attention span short. So I really struggle with that. I listen to them because they helping me out a lot. And they help me make these good videos. I wouldn't know how to make these damn TikToks. So they give me advice that please don't do videos over 9 seconds. These short videos good. And I actually like it because it forces me to be condensed and more on point. You guys see my streams, I rant like a motherfucker. Not really good for audience building, but it forced me to be very specific here. So I couldn't fit everything I wanted to in the video. In a certain point of the video, I started listing all the things that Brian did, and I'm like, shit, I'm running out of time. So I reshot that part, and I made it shorter because I went off, and I actually cut that part because I made a video damn near 2 minutes long. So here's my short list because this is what I propose to you. You guys are the proposals to our community because I want us to behave as an informed and also a left movement that has strategy. So I asked a question in my intro video. CJ, can you imagine the heat that we would get on RBN if we publicly, like we made a tweet about it, we went on other people's shows about it because she went on Pod Save America. Imagine we went on other shows. Like we're going to explain our endorsement of Donald Trump. I'm literally just imagining how fast we would get canceled. I'm only like that'd probably be the first time I ever trend on Twitter. People would shit on me so hard. Because why don't we treat people who support Joe Biden the same way that liberals and progressives would treat us if we support Donald Trump? Because Joe Biden's record is factually worse. In terms, and I say worse only because of escalate. I don't believe in lesser two evils. I believe that presidents escalate, right? So Barack Obama took George W. Bush's 2 wars and made it to 7. Doesn't mean that Barack Obama is worse than George W. Bush. It just showed his role is to escalate, right?
Right.
Then Donald Trump did the unthinkable. He did the fucking unthinkable. He drone strike more people in the first term than Barack Obama did in the first 2 years. He beat the drone strike king, fam. So presidents escalate. There's no lesser to evil. When Donald Trump get in charge again, he's going to escalate the military police. That's why I'm actually excited to see Trump win again, because a lot of people that believe that Trump is a sort of outside fighter, even though that loser should be completely dispelled from your mind after hiring Steve Mnuchin, John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, and many other people.
Unserious.
Once Trump get office again, and then he doubles down in support of the establishment, that's when I'm not gonna say that. I think people still. I'm always with the hopium. I'm like, this is gonna wake people up. I don't know that. But anyway, CJ, any takes? I've been ranting for a while. Any takes on anything we covered? I'll move on to the clip.
No, let's get to the clip. I
didn't read. I actually didn't read the list.
The clip.
I actually didn't read the list.
So
here's the list. Once again, this list was limited by Twitter too. So Joe Biden is funding Nazis in Ukraine, and as principal leftists, now communists are the natural enemies of Nazis. But I think generally, even if you're not a communist, you should be against this, right? Like the first bullet point alone is why it should be a cardinal sin to endorse Joe Biden, let alone the rest of this shit. You're endorsing someone who is a Nazi collaborator. Oh, big shout out to my man Jimmy. This guy said, I don't know if it's true yet, but this guy said Jimmy is playing my AOC clip. That's pretty dope. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
That's cool.
I wanted the video to be 2 minutes long, but I'll listen to them. He restarted student loan payments. He privatized Medicaid, expanded DHS and ICE, siphoned COVID relief money to the police, and broke the railroad strike. One of these bullet points alone is cancelable. Like if Dr. Cornel West won somehow, and Dr. Cornel West did any one of these things, I will be on this motherfucker's ass. I'll be ready to cancel that motherfucker. And you guys know, like,
Nick, and what's despicable? I forgot. I wanted to add this part. You know what's despicable? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, my bad, CJ, but I was about to say, I'll pass to you. I was about to say, if Dr. Cornel West somehow won and broke up a railroad strike, nigga, I will be done with that motherfucker immediately. Sorry, go ahead.
No, what I was gonna say, and what adds to the disgust of what AOC is doing, because this is literally moving the Overton window. What's so disgusting is that I believe, Nick, she came out and did this. I believe it was coordinated to come out and do this for her, for Joe Biden, because he was announcing the cluster and munitions. Yes. That's the same exact day. That is pretty freaking disgusting. Dude, that you're coming out to shield. Yeah, you're coming out to shield for Biden. It's like, look at Biden doing something terrible. And then AOC comes by. But wait, look at what AOC's doing. That is what she's did. She's trying to divert some of that sort of ridicule away from him making that announcement about the cluster munition. It's freaking disgusting to me. Go ahead.
I don't know why I didn't think of that, but that's actually a very powerful theory, because you came out the same day with endorsement. And anyone endorsing Joe Biden this early on, completely throw him in the trash. I mean, we know these people before gone, but that shows your bad faith. Right? Because I would disagree with someone who vote for Biden, period, right? But if you're like fighting for and negotiating and you had Trump derangement syndrome and you ordinary person, you're scared of Trump, I'm not going to be too mad at you at the end of the day. I'll forgive you if you are manipulated by people like AOC. But AOC and people in political power endorsing 18 months before the election with no ass, you cannot tell me that there aren't malicious. You can't convince me that Bernie Sanders is not malicious when they do that. That is
freaking, even Cenk calls him out. Even Cenk Uyghur calls out AOC. Even Cenk, the freaking 20 million Wall Street. I have it. Just let me know when you want me to put it up. But yeah, Cenk calls out them saying with this very point, this is way too early. And I couldn't believe he was actually calling them out. But go ahead.
Dude, AOC and Bernie so bad, they're going to make heroes out of even the biggest shit list. Because there's going to be shitloads like Cenk Uyghur, who's obviously super late to the party. I still remember Kyle Kalinske saying stuff like, "Nah, these people who hate on AOC, they just doing it for clicks. Why are you guys picking on the best member of Congress?" I remember he went on this whole fucking cringe-worthy rant, getting mad at people for criticizing the AOC. Now they slowly getting aboard. And how long, CJ, until I think maybe it'll take a few years of people forgetting. Maybe in 5 years, you're gonna have Cenk Uygur and Kyle Kalinske. They'll be like, "Nigga, I told y'all about AOC." they're gonna pretend they was out in front. I promise you, that's what they're gonna do. But anyway, let's watch this video. This is only 1 minute. I'm sure there are a lot of great gems in this article, but this is the only one I watched. So we just do this segment on this. And AOC doesn't even give the acceptable answer here, and I'm gonna explain what I mean by that after I let the video play.
So president's only primary opponents are Marianne Williamson, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Haven't been any rumors about anyone else even thinking about jumping in. Will you be supporting Joe Biden for re-election?
I believe, given that field, yes. I think he's done quite well, given the.
See, that's the problem. That's the problem. So once again, I have a disagreement over endorsing Joe Biden. But what makes you malicious is when you lie. So I would disagree with you. You say, "Oh my God, we got to stop Donald Trump. I'm afraid of Donald Trump. I got Trump derangement syndrome. So we must vote for the Democrat because of that." Because I know people personally like that. Real life people, family that do that, get scared of Trump. Tell you my dad got Trump derangement syndrome. And guys, I'm not really that mad at those people. Like if you just hate Trump and you are misinformed, and you think Biden's better, I'm not mad at those people. I'm mad at people like her that trick the people into thinking that Joe Biden's better. If you say that I support Joe Biden because we can't allow a psychopath like Donald Trump to win again, that is way less cringe than you saying you support Joe Biden because you think he did well. Because now you're lying. Now you're gaslighting. Now you're being a propaganda for the Democrats. You guys see the problem?
And she's not good at it. She's worse than David Pacman because the problem with AOC, she has a lot of tells when she's not telling, when she knows. You get what I'm saying? Because the person understands that they're lying. A person understands that they're stretching the truth, especially a person with her background who used to be completely opposite, trying to act like she was all this. So she understands that she is now messaging something different than what she did at the beginning when she was getting all this donation and people didn't like her. And, Nancy Pelosi, she had friction with Nancy Pelosi. She understands that. So a lot of in her face is a tell, or she'll talk and she'll look down when she says a specific word. When she says specific word, that's a lie. She'll go, "Yeah, but I thought like this." And she's looking around like that. It's such a tell that a person telling the truth does not move like that when they're talking about the truthful statement. They don't have these sort of mannerisms.
That's a great point, CJ, because I actually disagree with the people who pretend that AOC is dumb. Like, I don't think she's dumb. Like, when I heard her talk about left issues on the Glenn Greenwald show 5+ years ago, when she was on Jimmy Dore show 5+ years ago, will you call that person dumb? I think no way anyone can make the credible argument that the AOC pre-election is some dumbass. Like, if she would talk like a true fucking leftist. Talk about how Congress people should only serve one term. How we should do everything to raise the work. Like, that's not a dumb person. She sounds dumb because she is performing a role she is not good at. Like, she is being a new Nancy Pelosi, a Democrat PR agent who's lying when she knows she shouldn't be saying this shit. She knows she sold out the community. That's why your point is great. She knows she sold out the community. She knows she's saying stuff that people like us would easily see through. She thinks like, I'm gonna trick a few boomer liberals, but these motherfuckers about to be on my ass after this shit. So that's a great point, CJ, because you can tell there's not confidence. And that's why when you see these clips of her rambling like a moron, like on Fox News, that is completely opposite from the AOC 5 years ago. And a lot of right-wingers won't admit this. I know some people who personally don't like AOC won't admit this. But AOC was an effective communicator when she first hit the scene. And people can't even comprehend that because of who she regrets to today, right? So when she got to do this neoliberal dance, that's when she knows she full of shit. Her confidence drops, right? But anyway, I think I'll explain this enough. I'll play from the beginning. We watch the whole clip again. Watch it all the way through.
Marianne Williamson, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Haven't been any rumors about anyone else even thinking about jumping in. Will you be supporting Joe Biden for re-election?
I believe, given that field, yes. I think he's done quite well, given the limitations that we have.
You can look at her face right there.
Ebbs and flows, as there are in
Ebbs and flows
in a presidency. There are areas that I think were quite strong when he came right out of the gate with the American Rescue Plan. And of course, the Inflation Reduction Act was a massive step in terms of our climate agenda. But, there are also areas that I think
terrible.
could have gone better. We have major structural issues in this country, and I think it starts with the United States Senate. And I think that until we have senators that are willing to stand up and stare the filibuster in the eye and stare a lot of structural issues about the Senate, and the United States Senate will be what holds back this country from an enormous.
So you guys realize what she just said here? She mentioned, and I deciphered it this way. Her only criticism of Biden that he don't support the filibuster. Because he's like, man, Biden had all these great plans. If only we had the filibuster passed. If only the filibuster wasn't there, you guys wouldn't be so upset at Biden. And and there's so many things to break down in only this 1 minute clip. Look at this part. She said Biden did the best we have. Actually, I'll listen to it. Here it is.
I think he's done quite well, given the limitations that we have.
Given the limitations that we have. You guys see how AOC is purposely misdiagnosing the problem? What was the limitation that made Joe Biden fund ICE more? Like this thing, they were like, oh my God, we got limitations. Republicans are blocking us in Congress. That is not our criticism. Our criticism of Joe Biden is not that he's not able to work with Republicans to get his agenda passed. My criticism of Joe Biden is that he governs just like Donald Trump.
Right.
He's funding ICE $6 billion more than Donald Trump. So what does limitation have to do with anything? What limitations do Joe Biden has regarding sending weapons to Nazis in Ukraine? There's none. What limitations do Joe Biden have in sending weapons to Taiwanese separatists to escalating war with China? There is none. So this thing where progressives are pretending the only criticism of Biden is that he didn't get enough done? No, it's the harm he caused. She's speaking
in the language of a Democratic cowbell voter, cowbell leftist voter. She's speaking in the language. And what is that language? What is Emma Vigeland? What is Jank? What is Anna? What is all these people, Sam Cedar? What do they always say? You got to get power and get legislation passed. So you see, she's talking in terms of getting legislation passed. So what was his obstacle? The rotating villains. It's their fault. It's the filibuster. It's their fault because the legislation he's producing is great. They're just not getting passed. The IRA is terrible. It is not a climate legislation unless climate means the same damage, just the little bit of good that's in it. You also have a lot of bad. It washes it away. But she doesn't want to acknowledge that, just like with the debt ceiling, with all of these sort of legislation, even the BBB. There's a little bit of good that they can put on the news, but then there's a lot of bit of bad that nobody's talking about and nobody's going to bring up. And they just refer to it in the terms of the little bit of good that's put in there. And this is quite disgusting because she understands that the people that donated to her, that work for her campaign, is looking for tangible things to help them, not some freaking bullshit ass legislation, the IRA. She knows that, and she's trying to dumb it down. Like that is the sort of the touchdown. That is the goal line we need to cross, is getting this watered down legislation passed. It is truly disgusting. And this is what, and I was thinking this on the way before the show, and I'm thinking it, I'm remembering now, so I want to say it. It is way worse for a person to take money from corporations and do corporate bidding than a person to take money from working class people and do corporate bidding. It's way worse, way worse. Because the person's telling you up front, nigga, I'm taking corporate money, nigga. I'm doing corporate bidding, bitch. I'm doing that. That's what you're doing. But you're taking working class money saying, I'm going to go fight for you and your family who don't have health care and your family who don't have wages. I'm going to go fight for you. Give me your money. That's way worse.
Absolutely. You notice that RB, and we've been the one leading making that argument, right? And most people don't even think about it that way. Like, I know you guys know this, the professional managerial class. And once again, this goes back to the complaining of people like Cenk Uygur and Kyle Kalinske in the majority report, where they say, oh, people like RBN, people like Jimmy Dore, they just go after AOC because it clicked. They have no idea why we should be angry. And when I look at all the anger at AOC and Bernie right now from the left, I'm like, nigga, it's still not enough. Y'all letting them off the hook. You know how much money they stole from us? That's why, and I am very open about talking about this L, right? The reason why I believed in Bernie Sanders and AOC in the beginning was because they did not take corporate money, and they took money for ordinary people. So me being the sweet summer child that I was, I used to tell people like, I'm like, dude, they're not corrupt. They don't take corporate money. We're funding them. We're funding them, so they're gonna listen to us. I don't know if you said the same thing, CJ, but this is kind of stuff I used to say as a Bernie crat. You guys want a picture into the past? I used to be like, no, people are like, how you know Bernie's not gonna betray? No, don't worry. Like politicians are bought up because they take corporate money and they do corporate interests, but they taking our money. There's no way they're gonna betray us. I was a sweet summer child. I was like, there's no way someone is such a scumbag that they would take. And I remember the Bernie. I don't know if you guys remember the Bernie rallies. I loved them. I was at a few of them in South Carolina, and these rallies, almost every single one, they'll have one guy. They'll be like, I fought for this country, whatever. I went completely bankrupt. My medical bills. I have nothing left. The only thing I have left of this campaign, I think I'm gonna die. Like there'll be people that looked Bernie Sanders right in the eye, gave him a sob story talking about how things are so horrible for them, and then he looked him right in the eye and said, "I'm gonna fight for you." Look, these people who like I'm watching some of these live streams. I'm dead there in tears, dude. Because you know the part when people get testimony.
Yeah,
like, man, I'm going through this. I got medical debt. I got 2 kids. I can't feed them. We got student loans debt. All these people. I see some people in comments that they remember as well. Bernie looked at these people in the fucking eye, guys. Some of these people right now, I said, "I'm gonna fight for you." Then when the election's done, he don't give a fuck about none of those people no more. Now he's straight up a Democrat shield. How many of those people went to AOC like told AOC a sob story, and she looked at him like, "Yeah, don't worry, I'm gonna fight this stuff for you." Now she full Nancy Pelosi. The reason why I did not see this coming, the reason why I supported Bernie and AOC, because I could not possibly imagine how someone could be such a psychopath to do what Bernie and AOC did. After you watch all those Bernie town halls, see all the people struggling, see all these working class people aside for you, and you just throw them away for what? Swamp monsters in Washington? You guys realize that Dr. Cornel West is Bernie Sanders' real life fucking friend. Real life friend. Throw his friend on the bus in order to endorse swamp monsters that are his pretend friends. There's not enough anger. Because the people be angry at Joe Manchin, I don't give a fuck about Joe Manchin.
Yeah.
Joe Manchin, like you said, he literally on that. There's a video of him on a yacht telling poor people, "I ain't doing any shit for you." There's a viral video.
Yes.
That people using ads against him. He's on this yacht and people asking him to vote for the Biden plan. He's like, "No, I'm not doing it." The motherfucker's on the yacht partying with millionaires. So my thing is, if you vote for that motherfucker, you're a dumbass who deserves it. And he kind of like, nigga, you know what I'm about. Y'all still vote for me. But Bernie and AOC tricks people. And they trick people who are so desperate, like me, their critical thinking skills wasn't working right. I was so desperate for Medicare for all. I was so desperate for all these progressive policies. My critical thinking skills turned off, and I didn't see these charlatans for what they was. And there's so many people like that.
Because when you're desperate, literally almost the definition of it does turn off your critical thinking skills. Like in order to be desperate in that state, it turns off your critical thinking skills because now you're more in survival mode. And survival mode doesn't always have critical thinking. A lot of times doesn't have critical thinking. You're just thinking survival. And what's survival? I'm on my last leg, man. I can't do much else. But you're telling me what you're saying. I can, if you could complete that goal, that would save my family's life and my life. So yeah. I'm here to give my all. And you look them in the face, man. And you do this? Like I could not do that. This is why I couldn't be. I could not do that because why don't you just take corporate money? Just take corporate money, AOC. That's better than what you're doing. Because then people are at least say, well, she's taking corporate money. That's why she's voting corporate. Right now, people are just making excuses for why she's doing corporate shit. Because it can't be money is what they're saying. It can't be money. She doesn't take it, but they're refusing to understand. Becoming a politician, the perks, the perks, the list of perks, what you get paid is the least of the perks. Yes. All the perks is not even the stuff, your payment. That's not your biggest perk. The celebrityism. Look at how she's treated by people, even to this day, even after selling them out. the millions of people that follow her. It's so many other things, book deals, magazines, going to galas, like so many other things that makes it a perk outside of the payment, outside of getting money from corporations. And that's what we see, Nick. Go ahead.
Look at this part. This part you touched on earlier, and I want to pull up the screenshot. And she explained how the Biden administration was a massive step in terms of our climate agenda. It's guys, the Sunrise Movement is still to this day tweeting positive stuff about AOC.
Oh my God. Yeah, I racial them the other day. I racial them the other day on something.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if I find one of the tweets, but the Sunrise Movement to this day, I don't even find their handle, so I can search for it. To this day, they tweet nice stuff about AOC. So AOC is not laughing at us, CJ, when she says this, because we see through her. You want to know what she's laughing at? Which is why it confuses the shit out of me on why people who don't support these people are more mad at them than AOC and Bernie supporters. She is mocking you, Sunrise Movement. She's mocking your intelligence. She knows you're too fucking stupid to realize that she's praising a climate agenda that is endorsing fracking, that has more public drilling than Donald Trump, who funded military-industrial complex, the largest polluter in human history, to record levels. He approved of the Willow Project, and AOC, because she knows that the Sunrise Movement and all of their supporters are dumbasses, is going to support him. She's not. I mean, they're not going to ask any questions of her endorsing Joe Biden despite those things. So this shows.
Let me show you this. Let me just
go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, let me just show, because we're talking about climate right now, and I'm going to bring it back up. Let me just show you this headline. I'm going to take the video down in a second. This is the Black Agenda Report. This is our elders. I trust what they say, or what she says specifically on climate. Why the Inflation Reduction Act is less a climate bill and more a poison pill for Black and Indigenous
Black Agenda Report stay based. Black Agenda Report stay based.
That's the IRA that AOC is now trying to act like it's some sort of climate bill, which is pretty disgusting how she's describing it. Go ahead.
I really wish I could find this damn tweet because it was from that same. There's one tweet I'm thinking
Which
about.
one are you looking for again? I may have it saved. Which one are you looking for again?
They was praising Rashida Tlaib, and there was another one where they praised the AOC for standing up for climate. It was like, anyway, not that point.
Oh, you're talking about Sunrise Movement. Okay, I'll see if I can look for it as you go.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I have a hard time finding it, but they recently got dragged because they was like, thank you, AOC, for standing. Like, y'all still pretending that she's a fighter. And she making fun of you. We above it, guys. Like, we look at this shit and we like, you're a moron. We see through you. I am converting people into being anti-Bernie AOC every goddamn day. They're laughing at Sam Cedar. They're laughing at Emma Vigeland. She's laughing at Jake Uger when it comes to insulting their intelligence this way. So, this absolutely disgusting stuff. That's why I said in my video, this is what the Jacobins will have you believe. The David Schroeders will have you believe. People who will write good stuff against the establishment, they will pretend that people like AOC has some sort of 3D chess move, and she's only doing this because she has some overall grand vision for the workers. That is not what's going on here. She sold you out, and she's following directions of the party. Now, I have one more AOC related story. I want to play because we on the topic of AOC. But before I show this video,
hold on. Before you,
yeah, before I want to get you CJ, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm saying if you're switching from the endorsement, let me just bring up a couple of receipts I have that's still on the endorsement part.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so let me just, and it's literally just showing you some headlines here and just kind of just talking about the headline. So let's go to. Yeah, you can. I mean, you can go off the camera, but as long as you can hear. So you put out that video, and this is what I had to say about it. And I said in the tweet, how serious is AOC about Medicare for all when she endorses a person who says he will veto Medicare for all? And this speaks to what we always say about, like, strategy matters. The professional managerial, no, doesn't matter strategy. We're on the same side. We believe in the same thing. No, strategy matters. So in this tweet, how are you going to say you're for Medicare for all, but you keep putting in people, or you're endorsing a person who says He will veto it. That's like saying oh yeah, I'm an abolitionist to slavery, but I'm going to vote for the slave owners crew, the slave owners party. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And let me continue. Yeah, let me continue with the tweet. Stop telling me you're a staunch supporter of Medicare for all when all of your actions or lack thereof shows otherwise. And lack thereof meaning she doesn't go out and do anything. She doesn't rally people together for Medicare for all. She doesn't come out to Medicare for all rallies like we had, the Medicare for all march that we had. She doesn't do any of that. And then here's another one, the main one I wanted to show. And then I got like two other ones to show. Leftists blast AOC for endorsing Joe Biden, for endorsing Biden re-election, a betrayal of progressive interests, which is exactly what this is. And I'll read this little snippet right here because it's speaking to us, how she got roasted about this, Nick. They actually wrote an article because she literally got roasted over this video. She literally got that roasted. So let me read this part. The comments came as a shock to leftists on Twitter who said they felt betrayed by AOC, a prior diehard Bernie Sanders supporter and one of the most liberal members of Congress. And there's a lot that this article talks about we won't go into, but this article addresses a lot of the things that AOC said and did. And let me bring up, just read a couple of quotes here. From the article that's talking about this, and you see the headline, and it's New York Post. If you want to go see it, I'll put it in the description box in just a second. AOC drew the ire of some of her fellow progressives over the weekend after endorsing Joe Biden 2024 bid for re-election. The 33-year-old New York lawmaker was asked during an interview with the liberal podcast. Pod Save America if she would be supporting one of the two challengers, Marianne Williamson or RFK, for the Democratic nomination, which are the progressives. Now, why didn't AOC say, I'm gonna go with one of progressives, even if she went with Marianne Williamson, I'm gonna go with her in the primary, yes. But eventually she can still say, eventually I'm gonna vote for whoever the nominee. So if Joe Biden is the nominee, that's who I'm gonna support. Why wouldn't she just say that just to come out this way? And here's a quote from AOC. No, this is not the one I wanted to read. Right here. She said in the video, but let's study it. There are areas I think that were quite strong with when Biden came out of the gate with the American Rescue Plan, largest transfer of money, the American Rescue Plan. I'm just to point out what she's telling sort of like wins. And then the Inflation Reduction Act, which I already alluded to with the Black Agenda report. And then down here, former Sanders campaign secretary Brianha Joy Gray said that the squad leader endorsing Joe Biden now is a betrayal of progressive interests. It was true for Bernie Sanders endorsement, and it's true for AOC. Gray wrote, most Democrats don't want Biden to run. Bernie and AOC are tragically out of step with the movement and the moment. Quote, AOC once said in a normal country, she and Biden wouldn't be in the same party. Maybe that was true. Maybe that was once true, not anymore. That was Brianha Joy Gray. I had to read that because she kind of slayed her in a tweet, and everybody did. Slayed AOC in the tweet. And now let me show you this jank tweet, and then we'll end it there unless you want to move on to another story, AOC. So actually I shouldn't have stopped sharing. Let me share again. So that's your sharing on the other side. I'm thinking, wait, I'm trying to share the other thing on the other of the tweet. All right, that's yours. Let me share something else here. My bad, everybody. All right, so here we go. So the other thing I wanted to show was Jank. This is Jank saying both AOC and Bernie endorsements of Biden are way, way too early. First, this primary hasn't even begun, let alone ended. Second, you're enabling a very mediocre record. He gave Manchin more than he gave progressives. That should not be rewarded, especially this early. Progressives in Congress constantly give away their power. Did they get anything in return for this support of Biden? No. I've added the no part. I would be shocked if they did. Did they hold Biden accountable for dozens of unkept promises? Sorry, but obviously they didn't. Nick, this is Jake, Nick. This is Jake calling them out. Yeah, they lost Jake Uger. And this is the tweet that the article was referring to from Brianna Joy Gray. That's one of the tweets that was referring to. But these are all the people. Richard Medhurst chimed in.
Richard said?
Let's see what Richard said here. It says, progressive AOC endorses Joe Biden. Oh, he just quotes the title of the article.
He pretty much says he endorsed Joe Biden the same day Biden announced the.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't read all of it.
Yeah, that's why. I don't know why they make that connection before, but what you said earlier is definitely true. He was getting his ass beat, and I saw like articles in the Guardian and shit. I'm like Reuters criticizing Biden for that move, so that's why they send AOC out to do that. Oh shit! Occupy Democrats.
Yeah, this is the last one. I had to show you this shit.
Let me read this one because Occupy Democrats sound like fucking parody, son. Like, I swear to God, if you guys don't tell, you guys know what I'm talking about. Sometimes I see the tweets from Occupy Democrats. I think someone is literally parody.
This one right here.
Doing a parody of what a Democrat is. So he said, breaking. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez officially throws her support behind President Biden for re-election with the ringing endorsement of his accomplishments. AOC said that Biden has done quite well, especially given the limitations that we have. Liberals love that shit. Dude, I swear to God, click this profile, this Fed, and they sound, and it's parody. Like, there's sometimes I think they're doing parody, but it's a real count. There are areas I think were quite strong, she said, point out that Biden came on the right.
Wait, hold on, Nick. You got to finish this part right here. You stop here. One. Like right here, like where, because they add, because to your point, you were just saying how they love this, and this is how they insert this. So it says AOC said that Biden has done quite well, especially given the limitations that we have. And then they add this, presumably a reference to MAGA obstruction and our hyperpolarization, just giving her cover. That is disgusting. I don't know.
And by the way, whenever you hear people and Democrats, they lean on this more than Republicans, but both of them do it. When they talk about polarization, laugh at them in the fucking face. What polarization are you talking about? The proletariat is pretty damn united. The proletariat want healthcare. The proletariat want housing. The proletariat want to increase minimum wage. And these things are shown by polls. You guys know that 1/3 of Republicans want to defund the police? The super unpopular policy is supported by 1/3 of Republicans. So the proletariat is very clear about what we want. There's not a lot of polarization there. But the ruling class don't get what the majority of the people want. They force a ton of bullshit on you, and then they want you to fight over culture war shit. And then when people fight over culture war shit, they say, oh my God, look how polarized we are. Yes, there's different cultures in this melting pot of America. But when it comes to politics, you want to know what people want? People want to end the wars. CJ, is there polarization when it comes to ending the war? Is there polarization when it comes to healthcare? There's not. And I will argue that there's not polarization in Washington. So you have workers who mostly agree, and you have the ruling class who mostly agree. And we're the polarization on Ukraine. Yeah, Lindsey Graham and the Republican, all of them cheering for expanding NATO. All of them cheering on for the increased military industrial complex. All of them support Israel. All of them support ICE. All of them support the police. Where's the polarization you guys talking about?
That's a good point. Anyway,
that's a great point. I don't set their narratives. I don't like my mind is so decolonized. When they say shit, I assume it's not true. So when they say America polarized, it's manufactured. The issues they push out are the most polarized issues. That's why the right is linked with the trans issue. That's why they love talking about gay people. They can't stop talking about fucking gay people because they want to lead with the most polarizing shit instead of what unites us. So I will make the argument because I constantly push back against empire talking points. Or we are not polarized. The proletariat know what they want. The ruling class know what they want. But only one of us wins. It's not the workers. And then they spin this narrative. They create this narrative that, oh my God, the problem with Washington that we're not getting enough bipartisan shit done. No, the problem is you guys getting too much bipartisan shit done. And the bipartisan shit you guys get done usually fucks us up. Anyway, I'm a randy motherfucker. Any last thoughts on the AOC endorsement story? We still got AOC story.
No, you can do another airdrop story, and then we can get to some quick stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah. We can do rapid fire segments after this next part here. So the last segment we did cover how AOC endorses Joe Biden. She fully far gone. She fully part of the NATO left. And like we already know, because people were not allowed to talk about mandates, COVID vaccines, or any of this stuff. And I want to say, just for the YouTube doctors and scientists watching, RBN believes the vaccine is safe and effective. RBN believes that everyone should take the vaccine. RBN believes that no one should ever question authority at any given time. We are just commenting on the story as neutral observers. We are not implementing our topics on the vaccine. So why did I say this? So AOC, because the only way she gets asked a tough question is if like a citizen journalist yanks them out of a crowd, right? Like whenever you see Max Blumenthal, whenever you see Dan Cohen. I actually don't know who shot this video where they asked this question with her. So they asked AOC about the mandates that every true leftist should be against, that the ACLU was against, Professor Richard Wolff was against, because it was clear to me that it was anti-worker. And I reached that position anecdotally because I knew people were fired because of mandates. And hell, I told you guys about my apolitical mom, right? My mom, who's famously apolitical, like she don't give a fuck about politics. It's almost unbelievable in the way she don't care. I'm almost like, you guys don't care about this. Look, my mom don't give a shit. She was a single mom raising 3 kids. She cannot give a shit about this stuff. But my mom, being apolitical as she is, she knew someone that was fired in her company who she liked because they refused to get the vaccine. They wanted to impose their own body sovereignty, which we believe as leftists because we believe in my body, my choice. We believe that, right? I thought we did. So this person my mom knew lost her job because of the vaccine mandates, and my mom said some shit that made me fucking. My mom was like, I told you guys at the time. My mom was like, man, I think it's fucked up that these people are firing people because they refuse to get the vaccine. The first political statement I heard her made in years. So my mom, who was completely outside the influence of the Democratic Party, Republican Party, she naturally reached the conclusion like, yo, this shit is fucked up. You guys shouldn't be forcing people to take vaccines. And if you ask people in the black community, most black people will tell you the same goddamn thing. Nigga, nobody in the hood would trust this goddamn vaccine. Even though YouTube scientists, we should have, because YouTube scientists, we all know the vaccine is safe and effective, but there's some people who didn't believe that. So it was obvious that implementing mandates is an extremely anti-worker policy because when you look at the professional managerial class, the boutique left, the petite bourgeois, they usually had to follow such orders. They didn't want to implement those orders. They found there's a lot of workarounds around it. And the ACLU, their statement 10 years ago was that vaccine mandates are inherently harmful to workers. Then the COVID happened, and they completely changed their position. So I had Howie Hawkins on the show, which why thank God there's rumors that he's not running no more. Joe Stein is
please.
Because I asked him this question. I asked him, if there's a single mother who gets fired because she refused to go with the vaccine mandates and she's unable to feed her kids, are you okay with that? And Howie Hawkins was like, I don't care. I damn near told him get the fuck off my show. I was so disgusted. Because I'm like, how do you as a leftist don't care that a single mother could be fired over something like this? And to me, it was always clear that vaccine mandates are only there to increase the profits of Big Pharma that made $1,000 per second. You know why they made $1,000 per second? Because they mandated a fucking vaccine. So it's about profit. They didn't give a fuck about you. So anyway, I ran enough. I want to preface the story properly. So AOC was asked about her position about mandates. So let's hear what the working class fighter, socialist AOC, after says in regard to a very obvious workers like mandate. So let's check this out. So this person is going to ask AOC about how she feels about health workers coming back after being fired with mandates, because there have been multiple studies that showed that vaccine mandates was completely unnecessary. You got companies all over the nation that lift these things. And now that we know, I gotta be careful what I fucking say here. But if I'm gonna say like this, so the theory is, I gotta be very careful. The theory is, why would, and YouTube, once again, I'm just repeating the theory. The theory is, it literally makes no sense to mandate a vaccine that does not prevent and stop infection and transition and transmission of COVID-19. There's a deeply authoritarian argument to be made, but there is an argument to be made that if a vaccine stops a pandemic or stops a virus, it makes sense mandating that vaccine in order to stop the virus. If you have an effective vaccine, that's deeply authoritarian. I wouldn't be for that, but at least there's an argument that at least it makes sense that we mandate this thing that stops. No, they mandated a vaccine that, based on theories, YouTube, did not even stop the spread of the COVID-19 virus. What sense did that make? It makes none. So a lot of people are realizing this. There's a giant COVID reckoning going on right now. So AOC has asked this question in response of this COVID reckoning where people are realizing, damn, between mandates, between lockdowns, we really fucked this shit up. So this reckoning is happening. Let's see what AOC's response to this is.
Yeah, local reporter just heard me. She has one question.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good to see you. Good to see you. How's it going?
So I wanted to ask you this question because you're such a strong supporter of labor rights, civil rights, bodily autonomy. All of these issues come together with the issue of New Yorkers who lost their jobs during the pandemic due to mandates.
Due to the mandates.
And there's still a lot of those people who have not been reinstated, who want to be reinstated. What is your position on that? Would you support reinstating those New York City workers and state workers who lost employment under the mandates and want to go back to work?
Yeah, well, you know, I believe the mayor had lifted many of those mandates towards the end of some of these shutdowns. But I think a lot of it, frankly, depends on the environment. In healthcare environments that are very sensitive, educational environments, I think these are things that need to kind of be looked at, and they tend to have different healthcare requirements per sector.
So those workers,
that was one question, my dear. I'm so sorry.
Not reinstated.
I'm so sorry. That was the one.
And
I think
this
it depends on the
sanitation workers.
I'm so sorry.
So that's her answer. It took her a long time to get it out, but she said it depends on the sector, which essentially saying no. No. So the problem was that we were short-staffed on healthcare workers, and we had shortage of hospital beds. One of the reasons why there were shortages of healthcare workers is the fact that they get put mandates on these healthcare workers, despite the fact that the NYPD, police, and the military had a lot of mandates waived. So healthcare workers forced to have mandates. Police, military, not forced to have mandates. So what AOC is saying is, after panicking, if you want to psychoanalyze this interview, we could. But for the sake of time, you gotta see how she's smiling. Oh yeah, she's talking about labor rights. I know you're an advocate of labor rights, right? In the working class. Yeah. Then what about mandates? Then you see her tone completely change.
Yes.
When she's asked about mandates. And this is the part that's most disgusting because she pulls the Rashid Tlaib. She pulls the Ilhan Omar. She pulls the new strategy from the progressive-led politicians, which mirrors the establishment. Look at what happens when she is grilled on this.
They tend to have different healthcare requirements per sector.
So those workers,
that was one question, my dear. I'm so sorry.
Not reinstated.
I'm so sorry.
And
I think
this
it depends on the
sanitation workers.
I'm so sorry.
City workers.
We did the one. I'm so sorry.
I think it depends on the sector.
What the
That's
fucking point?
Disgusting. That is fucking disgusting, man.
That's so fucking. I want to get your thoughts on this too, CJ.
Like you. So you have your muscle on the side to come in and cut off. Oh, we gotta go. Sorry, that was a question. Can she finish the answer? She's a labor advocate, but she can't finish the answer about labor.
Yes.
You don't think this person can hear? My boss is not able to answer this question. I just heard the word salad, and she completed the word salad. Oh, you want to follow up? Oh, no, you don't. You're not getting any follow up to have to pull her, to have to pin her down to how she's not for labor. And that's what this person is here to do. But you know how they do it? They do it with a smile. I'm sorry. Yep. We got this. We got that. It's literally going to take 5 seconds for her to say whether or not she's down with it or not. But this is my other point about this. You know how disgusting it is, Nick, that you're a leftist and you can, with a straight face, easily answer that. That's literally two words. Yes. Hell fucking yes. Or what, in the affirmative for workers. I can't remember what the question was. But the fact that you're trying to you're trying to weasel your way. She's trying to weasel her way to not be perceived as not being against the worker when she is. She doesn't want to come out and say that though. So she has to, this is why she has to use a lot of word salad. You notice when she transitioned from being like the outsider to now, why did her word salad, her instances of word salad literally skyrocket? It's her trying to maneuver and not answer questions to show where she really stands. That is freaking disgusting. As a leftist, Nick, we will be out with a bullhorn saying, yes, no, don't be doing this to workers. No, hire them back and give them back pay and doing this. That's so easy to answer. But she has fully crossed over into the establishment that she knows she can't do that. That is pretty disgusting. Go ahead.
We mentioned this with the 10 poor received to leave video, but what kind of fucking leftist dodges the media? Now, you guys realize the biggest struggle that leftists face is getting our message out there? Look at all the people who refuse to interview RBN. Nigga, I want Tim Pool to go ahead. I dare you, motherfucker. I dare Tim Pool to try to catch me and I got you. I want the platform because if you're a leftist, you should be 100% confident in your ideology. We are fighting for the workers. We have the moral right, and we got the Marxist science behind our back. We are fighting against an unjustifiable, corrupt government. Anyone who sticks a microphone in my face, I am willing to talk to. You guys, that's my policy. Have I been on a bunch of different shows, a ton of different shows, a lot of them you guys haven't seen, a ton of different shows. Because as a leftist, as someone who is advocate for worker, any opportunity I have to speak is a positive. Meanwhile, here's AOC running away from a reporter. Even if it's a right-wing reporter trying to get you on a got you, I'm like, nigga, I'm about to serve you. How you gonna try to get me on a got you? Nigga, you made the biggest mistake of your life interviewing me. That should be the mentality. Imagine Alex Jones, Fox News, Dave Rubin, Ben Shapiro trying to call Rome out. CJ, can you imagine?
Get out of here.
They try to get Rome on a got you, nigga. He would spit some shit that they don't want their audience to hear. So you as a leftist running away from the media is fucking embarrassing. Embarrassing.
What was this video take? I don't think I've seen it. I've never heard this video. Is this new or is this?
The date of this tweet is July 7th. So I think this is relatively new.
Okay.
This is in our town hall in the Hunts Point section of the Bronx on July 9th. So man, AOC get on the town hall. So I want you guys to see this again. Man, the passive aggressiveness of liberals and how much they despise the free press. And I'm asking you guys this question. What is the fucking point? This is regarding Marianne Williamson and the fucking softball interviews that the Vanguard and Breaking Points do with her as well. My question I keep asking people is, what's the fucking point of a question without a follow-up? The point of a question is for the follow-up. So AOC gives a word salad that's obviously full of shit. So this person, this scumbag white liberal Karen motherfucker, prevents the follow-up, which is exactly the point of journalism. The question without follow-up is useless. Imagine if you asked George W. Bush about the Iraq war. And then George W. Bush is like, man, I waged the war in Iraq because God told me to. That's what he said before. He said, I waged the war in Iraq because God told me to. Trust me, we liberated Iraq. We found the weapons of mass destruction. All right, I'm done with questions. He leaves. Nigga, what the fuck did you just accomplish then? You asked him about the war in Iraq. Then once he said the other bullshit, you had to follow. Hey, what you said is not true. Can you clarify? The follow-up is literally everything when it comes to politicians. Not just
and they know that.
Meanwhile, AOC and her team is like, you get one question and no follow-up. Why do you think they make that rule? So AOC, just like Marianne Williamson, they can bullshit you, and then when you ask a follow-up, you're rude. You're rude. Like apparently I'm a mansplainer to Marianne Williamson. Apparently Marianne Williamson supporters think I'm rude because of the way I treated her, because I didn't allow her to spill a bunch of bullshit without follow-ups. Questions, no matter how hard, you can ask someone the hardest fucking question in the world. Hey man, I heard you have rape allegations on you. What's up with that? Then he said, oh no, the rape allegations not true. I actually was at the club. No one saw me doing it. Then you don't have to follow up? That question wasn't hard. No matter what question you have, if there's no follow-up, it doesn't mean anything. But I'm not blaming the reporter in this instance. I'm blaming AOC and her security guard because they know that fact, right? So I'm gonna play that part again. Good part.
Why doesn't AOC do this? Because this is what a leftist would do. If this was you, Nick, if you were AOC and you had somebody, you would go, hold on. I can answer this. I can answer this. Hell yeah, I'm for the worker and blah blah blah. That's all she has to do. And they're trying to act like it's the number of questions and not what she's saying. You're being so disingenuous. You're acting like, oh no, we're only stopping you because it's your one question. When you know she's trying to avoid the question, and that's why you're jumping in.
Absolutely. I just want to see that part again because, like, let alone her support of mayonnaise. That's one very revealing thing. The fact that she's a straight up big farmer simp shill, right? To me, the way she handles this part is more revealing than anything because we already knew that she's support mayonnaise. Look how she crumbled. She's not even pretending to be a fighter for the workers anymore. Look at what Dr. Cornel West doing. Dr. Cornel West is going everywhere. I saw an interview with he was on CNN. Yeah, just doing CNN interviews. He was on RBN doing Black Power Media, doing all these fucking shows. He did some boutique liberal fucking shows as well. Because Dr. Cornel West is like, nigga, it don't matter who I talk to, you are not gonna get me. Cause I'm ideology sound. And that's what I believe as well. Meanwhile, AOC and their people know they need protection. They know they need protection. That's why politicians hire a job which I think shouldn't exist. There's something called a press secretary that should not exist. What the fuck is a press secretary? You bring your ass out and answer questions, motherfucker. You are not going to convince me Joe Biden, who, and I saw some right-winger complain about it. He apparently 38% of his presidency was spent on vacation thus far, CJ. 38%. Now, they play this game where they all complain about vacation time. You know, they all do it. But you take all the vacation time. You take early, you take naps. You know, and they want us to believe. The ruling class want us to believe that these politicians are so busy that they can't take one day out of a week to answer questions for an hour and a half. I would say you owe at least 90 minutes a week to your constituency. That comes from Congress, Senate, and President, everyone up. But they don't do that because they can't answer those questions. So they invented this position that shouldn't exist. I'm not saying America's the only one who have it, but they created this term called a press secretary, where a press secretary, their job is to lie on behalf of the president. If you are not willing to give at least an hour, I think it should be 9 minutes. If you should be at least given an hour to explain your votes and your decisions and your bill to the populace. And if you are not able to do that, you should be disqualified to be in public office. Now, once again, that solves the ageism problem, right? Because people say they should have age limits. I don't agree with that. I don't necessarily agree with that, right? Why are people worried about the age of politicians? Because their ability to handle and answer questions, their ability to be effective. If you're old and you can't explain your policies, if you can't explain the direction of your administration, you're clearly not fit. But someone like Bernie Sanders, even though he's a gaslighting liar scumbag, Bernie Sanders can explain his position in the press conference. So I wouldn't say Bernie Sanders too old to be senator, but Joe Biden's definitely too old to be president. You guys see how this solves the AIDS issue? If you can't answer to your policies, if you're too old, if you're too fucking demented, if you can't do it, you shouldn't be serving. And if you're 91 years old and you answered all the questions rapid fire, then you should serve. It's that simple. Biden held, and no one talk about this, he held how many press conferences Biden held? Maybe 3 his entire presidency?
Maybe.
Maybe. I saw a long time ago talking about how he never hold press conferences. That show he should be disqualified. Anyway, sorry, I want to hold on right. You guys get it. I want to play this part.
Different healthcare requirements per sector.
So those workers,
that was one question, my dear. I'm so sorry.
Not reinstated.
I'm so sorry. That was the one.
And
I think
this
it depends on the
sanitation workers.
I'm so sorry.
City workers.
We did the one. I'm so sorry.
I think it depends on the sector. Thank you.
Sanitation workers.
Look at this passive aggressive asshole.
He is so disgusting because you're trying to act like you're being polite when she is literally the opposite of polite. Yes. You are literally the opposite of polite. I'm so sorry, we can't answer the question. Like, get the fuck out of here. That's what I would have if I was a reporter. I would just turn to my anger track, say something. Get the fuck out of here, man. I'm here answering the question. You know what I'm saying?
You guys see why? And I can write a segment. We do some rapid fire segments. You guys see why civility politics is the enemy of the workers? That video I find very interesting. You see how they weaponize civility? Yeah. Oh, please, I'm sorry. I'm gonna be a fascist. I'm gonna fight against the free press. No follow question line. But I'm saying, please, I'm sorry though.
Right.
Fuck civility politics. Civility politics is used as a weapon against the workers. It's used as a shield to protect the ruling class, and that's why we harshly rejected, and we see it in many applications. And that video is one of the most interesting ones of it. I think that the AOC mandate story, she was getting roasted from a lot of people for that as well. She was getting roasted for that and the endorsement. Not a great day on Twitter for AOC, but she don't care about the proletariat.
Yeah, that's too.
She got
like,
email from. Go ahead.
No, just gonna go piggyback off what you're saying. Everybody's kind of been getting called out lately in the last several days. A lot of people's been getting called out. We're gonna talk about Khanna got called out, got ratioed. You got AOC got called out, getting ratioed.
Yeah, this illusion is done. The illusion of the progressive.
Jen Psaki, you're gonna talk about her. Yeah, so this is great that the illusion is gone. But go ahead, Nick, if you had any final words.
Yeah, I'm just glad the illusion is gone. Khanna's called out all the time. AOC called out once again. Even Jake Uger has to address it. And I'm speaking for people who may not be in discourse. There was a huge faction of progressives, even people not even significantly to my right. Like there was this large faction of people that like, why are you guys spending so much time on AOC and Bernie? Oh my God, you guys are exaggerating about how bad AOC Bernie. This is a whisper that's been in our ear ever since we started. This is the criticism that Jimmy used to get, right? That the Gray Zone used to get, that all our allies used to get, right? At Lee Camp, Mark Campbell, Black Agenda Report. They be like, why are you guys being so mean to AOC and Bernie? They're the best among us. CJ, and feel free to push back on me, you don't see it. The last year, that shit is very muted. Like the pushback that I used to get for criticizing AOC and Bernie, the pushback that everyone got regarding AOC and Bernie is essentially gone. Not only is it gone, they're getting piled on.
Nina Turner's one of them. Nina Turner's one of them. She used to be, come on, guys. Now she like, nah. She even saying, because it's to a certain point. Like you can no longer, all the people who voted for them and said, vote harm reduction. Like that shit is out the window. That shit is out the window. And this is why I feel like, Nick, they have made the pivot. The NATO left. It's like, look, those people we told to vote, and now we look like complete flus. We might as well go ahead and take this middle lane right here because we ain't never getting nobody to our left ever again. It's never gonna happen. Breaking a strike. All of this stuff. Voting for NATO she did vote for NATO expansion. Voting for Ukraine war funding. Like all these things, just one after another, and now she is endorsing Joe Biden again. A year in advance, like, come on! It's just not believable anymore.
They didn't even do the pony show this time. See, that's how you know they gave up. They know they lost the left. Remember last election when they did the pony show? They had the progressive task force.
Yeah,
you guys remember that? And we accurately called that out. I'm like, this obviously. I think that pre-RBN. I think I did it on my personal socials actually. That was pre-RBN. At the time, I was like, this is obviously a ploy to convince people that there's a leftward negotiation going on in the Biden administration.
Right.
I told Voss there's no way he's going to do this shit. That's why he was trying to get me. Like, you don't know what's on the progressive task force. I'm like, nigga, I don't know because they're not going to do it. Why should I say some shit out that's not going to happen? But that was his big got you. But I told him it's not going to happen. This time, they gave up the left so much, they're not even going through that pony show. They're not even doing the progressive task force shit no more because that was the cover. We endorsing Joe Biden because of this task force. We know he's shit. We know his record's horrible, but that's what they ran on. They're not even doing that. They're like, no, we endorsing them.
They've given up. Yeah, and it's pretty disgusting. We're gonna get to about 5 or 6 quick stories, or I'm just gonna show a video or a headline or a tweet, and then we'll react. So let's get right into it. The first one, actually, let me save that. Let's get to. Hang on a second here. Let me pull up my bookmarks. So there's a couple. Let's start with this NAFO, since this is your tweet. We'll start here. Now, do you want to preface your tweet and then I'll play the video?
Yeah, there was a NAFO summit. I'm trying to figure out because there was mirroring the NATO summit, which I'm going to cover tomorrow on the RBN Live because there's a lot going on with NATO. Excuse me, there's going to be a big week, man. I think I'm getting sick, man. I really hope I'm not getting sick. But there's a big week for NATO. Sweden, Erdogan has given up his blocking Sweden for NATO. There are a lot of negotiations. He got a lot back from the West. He was pushing for Hungary and Turkey to be part of EU. He did not get that. But there was a lot of assurances, including Swedish stop backing the Kurds. There's a lot of stuff that they got, and they led to Sweden join NATO. So there's this big NATO summit. There's a lot. There's literally, that might be like one story. There's someone's breakdown. I know we probably had time to that today, so I might do that tomorrow or at Nick and I talking about everything gone. On Wednesday, Joe Biden's giving a big speech at the NATO summit where he's gonna try to. It's gonna be like a big address. I'm definitely covering it. I'm gonna see if I can cover it live if I can, because it will be a big address to shore up Western support for the war in Ukraine. It's gonna be big. This NATO summit is a very crucial moment for the stage in the war in Ukraine. So in order to mirror this, which we're going to cover this more, NAFO, the online feds, had their own convention to mirror the NATO convention. So a bunch of these ops, and this is definitely a CIA-held event. They got together, and they were like, surely, guys, we are real. We are not bots. We are not agents of the CIA. Look, we are real people, like ordinary people doing normal shit. So they hold a summit that was far from fucking normal. And a lot of people making fun of their appearances, which I think is fair fucking game. Right? I think that's fair game. I'm not one of those soft leftists. Like I am one of the people that believe there is one person that you can fat shame. Like I think it's rude to fat shame generally, but I think you should fat shame Chris Christie. You know what I mean? I'm one of the people that say all these rules of civilities go away across class lines. So yeah, we should be nice and kind to each other. I don't think we should make fun of each other's appearances. But if you are inside of the war criminals, if you're inside the establishment, if you're part of the military-industrial complex, if you're for killing people, then yeah, I'm making fun of your goddamn appearance. I'm sorry, I'm not that guy.
I'm totally with that.
There's some people like, I'm bored of it, but no, nigga. If you're a war criminal, I'm making fun of everything.
Yeah.
So anyway,
no, I think they should be tarred and feathered. They should be tarred.
So now people noticed that the people at this NATO summit are just a bunch of unfuckables. So
that's what they call it.
That's what they call it. So these people deserve to be mocked because they're 100% fucking feds. And well, the people speaking 100, no one can convince me these people aren't fucking feds. And the people who are not feds, they are the victims being dragged along. They are incels, over the online losers that the CIA is taking advantage of because these incels online, what they look for is a community. They need a community of people that give them a sense of meaning. So the maybe 5% of NAFO that's real are these online Western chauvinist losers who find online community and they feel like they got a sense of purpose through helping Ukraine win the war against Russia. Now let's play the video. I got a lot more to add, but just to give you something.
Yeah, let's play the video and I'll read your tweet.
A little bit more.
You said the CIA really was like, quote, let's send our ugliest, most out-of-shape agents to the NAFO convention, end quote. And let's play this video. It's very short, 30 seconds. Again, these are kind of rapid fire segments. They're going to be very quick, 5 to 8 minutes maybe, and then we'll just move on to the next story.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we definitely should do more of those. I like that.
Yeah, here is, it's 30 seconds.
I would like you to now interview certain Mr. Camille, please, to the stage.
Where's your cigarette, man? Yeah, that's Camille.
Look how edgy he is.
I would like you to now interview.
Look how edgy he is, man. You see how he threw those plushies out of the way? Man, that's so like him, man. That's our Camille, man. You see how outside the edgy is? Man, we have fun at NAFO. You see how weird and out. Look at this again. Look, that's Camille for you, man. That's Camille for you.
You know what? I thought this was Kyle Kalinske for a second. My eyesight ain't the greatest. I just swear this was Kyle Kalinske on the left that's introduced. Yeah, I thought he sitting down, not the guy standing up.
So,
but this is laughable, Nick. This is laughable. And they happen to be in the same city. So you're telling me they're in the same city as the actual NATO summit? Isn't it in Vilnius?
What was
I think it is.
Summit? Let me see. Where?
No, well, it says it right here on the screen. It says this or
oh yeah,
or
so I
maybe
guess it was.
Yeah, so it was in the same city as the actual NATO summit. And to me, that also speaks to this is actually CIA. Why would it be in the same city? Like, that's too much of a
and they
coincidence.
can fly out. These people had the resources to fly out in the same area. This is 100% CIA. And let's show you show a screenshot. Like you can go forward into that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like maybe go to the end where you see him sitting on the couch. Just pause the screen there. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but look at the age of these people. They look like military fighting age to me. So instead of LARPing online, like these people are doing apparently, why not sign up and fight this war that you're so confident is so important? No, they don't fight for it. You know, at least stand up and fight for the war you care about. They don't do that. They don't even do that. They LARPing online as they watch Ukrainians die. That's why I make fun of their appearance. They're cheering for the death of Ukraine, cheering for World War III. And that's why this press conference is done. So a lot of people online are making fun of their appearance. But I personally think this is a 3D chess move. 3D chess move by the CIA. This is actually great central casting by the CIA. CJ, think about it. Think about it. Think about it. If you were trying to convince people that this shit was real, who would you hire to be the face of NAFO? You will find the fattest, most unappealing, overweight, loser-looking motherfuckers that you could possibly find. Those are the people that CIA will cast for this role because they make it look believable. Look, we're having a NAFO summit. Oh my God, look at all these losers.
Right.
They operate on 3D chess, guys, because they want us to make fun of these people. Because I saw a lot of people fall for that. Oh my God, look at all these losers support NAFO. My argument is they're not even fucking real. They casted the people you expect the most to be NAFO, and they hold this convention like all these losers, so you believe it's
makes
legit,
it believable.
It makes it very complicated psyop, very complicated psyop.
Compared to
go ahead.
Compared to the races, you know, the races in mass that show up and they march and they straight line. Compared to that, that is clearly. If you don't, let me give you a little more context. You know, what do they call it? Patriot Front. That's what it's called. I think it's called Patriot Front. It's that CIA outfit where they show up in rider vehicles, like moving vehicles, U-Haul vehicles, so that you can't trace them. And then they have their faces covered. They got hats and fatigues on. They're marching in certain lines. Everybody knows that's the feds from a mile away. They're all fit. They're all kind of clean cut. But you see, to your point, Nick, in this case, what are they trying to make it more believable? We're just regular people. So they're going to cast a guy that looks like this, that looks like the regular guy who does nothing, who doesn't exercise, who just watches TV, who plays video games, to give it more believability, to your point.
Yeah, there's one more thing I want to share. I'm trying to find this. There it is. Here's the actual source. It actually took me a long time to find this. So you want to know how this shit is not legit? I saw this. And there was no doubt in my mind, but if there was any lingering doubt in my mind that this shit wasn't real, they overreached, CJ. I don't know if you saw this, but this NAFO summit was addressed by the Prime Minister of Estonia, Kaja Kallas.
No,
and it was the message that they showed at the convention. I'm not going to play the video because the video just platitudes. Look at this part. Oh my God, I just saw this part. Look what you said here.
As a proud honorary fella, I want to...
See, actually, I will play the video. Actually, I'll play it. Fuck it. Listen to this.
Dear fellas, I'm really sorry not to be able to be there with you in person for the first ever NAFO summit in Vilnius. But I will be following in your footsteps in a few days when NATO leaders meet. As a proud honorary fella, I want to send my greetings to you, and I wish you the most based NAFO summit possible. As I've said before, the aggressor must be defeated on the battlefield, but Russia is also waging a war against our democracies, an energy war, a cyber war, an information war. Democracies need to take steps to defend themselves in all these areas, as well as holding the line to defend a world where rules still apply and where technology works for, not against, democratic societies. You are all a living example of this, fighting Russian disinformation and bad takes with good humor, intelligence, and enthusiasm. Behind every fellow is a real person.
And I don't know if you guys saw this, but that was the line that everyone was tweeting regarding this NAFO convention. You had some of these people posting stolen images of people and they were saying, behind every fella is a real person. Guys, we are real. I promise you, we are not feds. No, bro. Literally type in this sentence right here into Twitter. You will get hundreds of bot tweets of people saying, behind every fella is a real person. Because that's what this convention was all about, to convince you that these NAFO bots are real people, to the point where they got the Prime Minister of Estonia to send a video message to them. And they were always like, oh my God, we're being acknowledged. So they have this random convention of online trolls, and they get acknowledged by a world leader? And people don't think these people are fed.
This is a psyop.
Fed
Get the fuck out of here. They got a NATO flag in the back. This is so... And some of the words that she selects, she's acting like they're like basically they're her comrades, and she would be there if it wasn't being for NATO sort of giving it legitimacy. And then what these people always do, they give away sort of what they doing and what they say, because she talks about information war, and that's what exactly who NAFO is. This is about an information warfare, and that they're going in, and this is why they see themselves as some sort of like, is this the new frontier of sort of American sort of patriotism, being willing to go out and have this information warfare propaganda for NATO and the United States? That's sort of like what this is about to me. But go ahead.
Yeah. But that's how you can tell what really happened at FedCon 2023, as I'm calling it, because NAFO, just like all the other things, were feds. The funny thing is, you see these NAFO accounts, and I know it was coordinated strategy, because if you look at some of these tweets, like search NAFO, you see all my followers making fun of these people. Like, these people keep saying behind every NAFO account is a real fella, and then they'll post a picture of the most nerdiest looking motherfucker you can think of. Like, and I'm not trying. I swear to God, I'm not trying to be mean here, but there were so many. Like, it was so cringe. Like, post number one, behind every NAFO account is a real person, some obese, nerdy looking motherfucker. Another obese, nerdy looking motherfucker. And I'm like, so you told me all these obese, nerdy motherfuckers are posting their pictures now? No, as I said at the beginning of the segment, this was a psyop where they like, we're gonna cast a bunch of ugly, nerdy looking motherfuckers, and then we're gonna have people steal the pictures of people who fit the casting role. Because if they had a bunch of in shape feds, like they did at they made that mistake at Patriot Front, where they had a bunch of in shape motherfuckers, and people like, yo, why is there not one out of shape Patriot? That was sloppy. That was sloppy work on behalf of the FBI and the feds.
They learned.
So they learned, like, all right, if we're gonna do NAFO, we can't have our sexy motherfuckers here. Let's find it ugliest motherfuckers are paying well, and let's get taken care of. So they're trying to
convince us that this guy who showed up at the NATO convention in the video we showed, this guy who's not that appealing, these people don't want to put their faces on their Twitter and their social media accounts, but they're showing up in person to do this? Yeah, like it's not believable. It's not believable whatsoever to me. Not at all.
Yeah, what's that?
But we can get to the next story. Again, we're doing some rapid fire stories next, and let's get to this one. This is a quick video. I think it's 30 seconds. So of course, Tucker Carlson goes on to Russell Brand's show, and what we're gonna cover is
that was a broken internet.
Yes, we're gonna cover it now. We could probably do a longer version of covering more of the interview, but we're gonna zero in on. Let me see. Oh yeah, we're gonna zero in on this part where they're talking about January 6th.
Dude,
and
I heard
who was actually there. Go ahead.
Sorry, CJ, but I heard that this live stream. I didn't confirm it. I heard this on Twitter. I heard at one point they had 1 million live viewers.
Yeah. No, I watched it. I watched it. I didn't watch it live, but it's a lot of people that watch this and they don't know what to do because like, I don't know what legacy TV he's gonna do, especially news and politics, because if he can get 1 million people watching him on Twitter or with some other platform,
that's live,
TV,
guys.
that is crazy. Like they're not. Don Lemon wasn't getting that. Like they're not getting that on cable news right now. Most of the shows, except for like the top shows, like when Tucker Carlson was on, Sean Hannity, they're breaking 1 million. But like Don Lemon, like Wolf Blitzer, like John King, they're not breaking no $1 million or million viewership. But he is,
and that's with the cable platform. CJ, imagine they had to garner those views on the merit of their name. So Don Lemon get what $200,000, $200. He probably does, but 200,000 viewers. But that's because he's given the cable platform. Can you imagine his views if Don Lemon had a YouTube show?
Yeah,
like without the CNN brand? So you guys understand how the difference. Like they do bad with the CNN platform. Can you imagine how relevant they will be if they didn't have that? Like, oh, we jumping live on I'm Don Lemon. I'm gonna join live with Anderson Cooper. Nigga, they ain't getting nowhere near the amount of views. They probably get less views than RBN, damn near.
They probably I would think they would get less views than that.
This is Tucker and Russell Brand without the cable infrastructure, allegedly getting, because I didn't confirm it personally, allegedly getting 1 million live viewers. And we all know if people who in video production, most of your views come after the live. So they get millions of views in this video, way more than corporate media. So this is extremely relevant. I didn't see this interview at all. This is your first time watching, so go ahead, CJ.
This particular snippet is about 50 seconds, so let's listen.
And that was a tip-off to me. I mean, I had no thought in my head as I watched this happen on television and in the subsequent weeks that U.S. law enforcement or military agencies had anything to do with it. That never crossed my mind. I never thought it was a false flag or anything like that. I'm not a conspiracist by temperament. I never thought that. And then I interviewed the chief of the Capitol Police, Stephen Sund, in an interview that was never aired on Fox, by the way. I was fired before it could air. I'm going to interview him again. But Stephen Sund was the totally non-political, worked for Nancy Pelosi. I mean, this was not some right-wing activist. He was the chief of the Capitol Police on January 6th. And he said, oh, yeah. That crowd was filled with federal agents. What? Yes. Well, he would know, of course, because he was in charge of security at the site. So the more time has passed, now it's been, and that was a tip-off.
So, reason number 101 why Tucker Carlson was fired. He did an interview with this person, and the person said, "Oh yeah, let's filled with agents. What are you talking about? January 6th? That crowd was filled with agents, and then magically he's fired, and he they own that content. That's not so he can't put it out. You get what I'm saying? So he has to re-interview him." Pretty much do the same exact interview in order to get that content out. But can you believe, I mean, we all knew this, and this is the reason why I believe that workers should not care anything about January 6th and all this stuff, because if the agents aren't center stage at these hearings, this is a joke. Where are the agents that were on the scene? The ones the provocateurs, where are they? If they're not center stage at these hearings, I don't give a fuck about what's happening at January 6th. But I thought this was an interesting part that Tucker said. Go ahead.
This is why January 6th was considered a joke on Black Twitter. When you look at liberal, even progressive Twitter, I had a hard breakup with a ton of Democrat progressive mind people around January 6th because they was upset at all the jokes I was making at the time. It was the funniest shit in the history of Black Twitter. Black Twitter was on fire today at January 6th. And even this video is funny because January 6th taught white Americans a lesson that we already knew in the Black community. Like, you had Tucker Carlson, a lot of people on the right that's being radicalized because remember, we had this protest we had planned that was infiltrated by a bunch of feds, and then the protest went out of control because of the feds infiltrating and causing problems. And I'm like, welcome to being Black in America for the last century. White Americans are finally getting their protests infiltrated. So what happened at January 6th is what happened to Ferguson. It happened to George Floyd. Every single time there are Black protests that happen, you have feds infiltrate that motherfucker, start violence, and then a bunch of white Americans go, oh my God, look at that violent protest over there. So that happened for the first time to these people. The people that are like, man, I wasn't trying to commit crimes. I was just there to show support for Donald Trump. Then the feds escalated the situation, and all of a sudden they're in prison. for being rioters at at January 6th, right?
Right.
So this happening for the
All
first
right.
time. This is not new for us. We knew it was gonna happen, and I told you guys at the time. You can literally find my tweets before this interview. I was like, nigga, January 6th is obviously Fed shit. The police, there are videos that has been scrubbed off the internet. The Capitol Police literally let them in, literally letting these people in. And I'm gonna show you this tweet. I literally saw Jimmy tweet this out earlier. I think it actually go well with this thread. Because I saw this earlier, Jimmy tweet. I'm gonna put this up, and it's a good way to wrap the segment up. I know we want to keep you short.
Yeah, we're gonna
But
keep it short and go to the
I
next
saw this
one.
video earlier before. I think it's great for this segment. I'll read it from New York Times so we go in order. Tucker Carlson repeatedly endorsed a conspiracy theory about an Arizona man inciting the January 6, 2021 assault on the Capitol. Now lawyers representing Ray Epps and his wife are proceeding with plans to sue Fox News for defamation. So who is Ray Epps? And why is Ray Epps suing Fox News? Because Tucker Carlson says the fucking obvious, that Ray Epps is a fucking Fed. And he was caught being a fag, and he was called out as a Fed by the MAGA community. So he then shifted his loyalty to the Democratic Party. And out all the January 6th rioters, this is the point that Jamie Dore makes. So I'll just read Jimmy's tweet. He says, it's weird how this is the only January 6th protester that the New York Times has sympathy for. So I'm going to show you guys the one January 6th rioter. Once again, I found it because Jimmy, bitch out to Jimmy. This is the guy that they have sympathy for. Hopefully he doesn't buffer like that again. Look, well, the reason I point this up in relation to this story, because this is the most obvious fucking Fed I ever seen in my life. But he's now suing Fox News for calling him a Fed. And I explained this. Was on RBN? I was on the show. I think it was on RBN. Well, I was like, there's all these people that say the George Floyd protest was violent. Not true. I was there. There was a ton of people like this, including many that was caught on Twitter and went viral. All these fat motherfuckers that was like, burn it down, burn that building down. Come on, that fuck shit up. Man, I'm like, nigga, will you calm your ass down? What if you're a Fed? You're a Fed. Who you with? And I don't know if you guys remember at General Strike Summit a long time ago, I did a panel on how to, and we talked about how to spot these Feds.
I did.
It's obvious what they do. And one thing, when they're Fed, they act alone. Like, who the fuck do you come with? Who it was your plan? Like, they always have an agenda. They come on their own. There are all these red flags. So let's watch this video. I think this ties the last story up well. Most obvious Fed you will ever see this guy. This is the guy the Democrats love, by the way.
Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. What? No! Peacefully. Fed.
No. These are Trump supporters, fam. He didn't stumble upon a NATO liberal protest. Nigga, he's among apparently the most radical of MAGA. Who are the people who actually travel and attended these events? The most radical among MAGA, right? So he said we need to storm the Capitol, and the most radical among MAGA was like, no, nigga, what are you talking about? And they think this guy's not a Fed? So what did this just begin? I'll let play more. I love the video. I'm glad that Jimmy highlighted it.
We need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. What? Peacefully. Fed. Tomorrow, I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested. Well, let's not say it. We need to go. I'll say it. All right. We need to go in.
Shut the fuck up, Boomer.
To the Capitol. Face Fed posting? All right.
These Fed posts, they literally live, and I kind of remember seeing this at the time. They literally calling this guy out live right now for being a Fed. And there was many videos like this during the George Floyd protest that white Americans still pretend that was violent. A ton of Feds like this instigating violence. They would be the ones who often burn the buildings down, break glasses. And there was a video of this guy. I wish I could find it. We covered this a long time ago. This guy with a mask who threw a brick in the window. And they're like, who's that? Who's he with? Why you got a mask on? It was a Fed. It was a Fed that was trying to escalate riots and protests, break businesses to delegitimize the movement. That's what this guy is doing. He's being called out aggressively. Let's continue.
I didn't see that coming. Okay.
Monument Hill.
Look how many times it's got the point of the video. Look at the number right here. The point of the video is how many times this motherfucker is caught on camera. And every single time he caught on camera, he's saying some wild ass shit. So this is the third time, according to the video, that he's caught.
Where our problems are. It's that direction.
Oh shit, I think that's when.
My buffer.
All right, noted. But one more thing.
So that it kind of buffered there, but that last
That's
clip,
so easy to tell.
he literally like,
guy's
hey guys,
bad.
over here. He literally he directing traffic for this January 6th psyop.
And he's by himself.
Yeah, by himself.
Who does that? Who comes in alone to direct people you don't know? You come with a group and then you're like, oh, he has some sort of leadership role, but you don't know none of these people, but you're trying to get them. That's so clear that this guy's a Fed. It's so clear. Go ahead.
I gotta find that graphic again because there's a great graphic. I still remember today. Me and Zoe talked about this maybe 2 years ago. We talked about how to spot feds on one of my shows, and one of the biggest tells if they are alone. Like, and think about how many people just go to a protest alone. Not many fucking people. Like, usually people bring a friend, they come in a group, they're part of an activist community, they're some part of an organization, they go or whatever, right? Not many people just like, I'm gonna go protest and be there all by my fucking self. And then not only they're there all by themselves, you're a leader, you're directing.
You're the main voices. Now you're a main voice, a leading voice, a guiding voice. That's a Fed. That's a Fed. It's not.
So this is number 4, and we can write a segment after this. I know these are short segments. So we almost done here. This is the 4th time he was caught on camera, according to this video.
No, when we go in, are we gonna get arrested? We go up there. You don't need to get shot. Arrest us all.
Look, he's right fucking the guy. These are the videos that we saw on Twitter. He was right there when the gates went down. What are the chances that this guy is there right when the gates go down? So let me play the video so you guys see what I'm talking about. This is the famous video of the gates going down and storming the Capitol. And guess who's fucking there?
Oh, now he's falling back. They're going in. Now you want to fall back to the back now?
I didn't see that.
You notice he's pushing the gate. They're pushing the gate through. Then he starts to like slowly walk backwards. What the fuck? He starts to slowly walk backwards as you just telling people to go, let's go. Then you go like this and you just start. You ever seen that Homer Simpson meme where he backs up into the bush? That's basically what he does right here.
Oh, gee. I didn't know that the first time I watched the video. And guys, this obvious Fed is suing Fox News for saying the fucking obvious. Anyway, on a few more seconds here. I didn't even know that before I watched this video because that's the infamous video we've seen in countless different angles of the barricades going down and people rushing the Capitol. One of the most replayed clips. He was there, fam. He was there, one of the most critical points, helping the barricades go down. Then, like you said, he slipped in the background unnoticed.
And he never testified in January 6th. I don't remember him testifying. How is it they don't have this video, Nick? How is it they didn't see this guy saying this stuff? Why didn't he come in and give a deposition? Where is his testimony at?
And now liberals have sympathy for him. The only writer that they're all saying that these people should rot in prison for the rest of their fucking life because they attended this protest. Which, once again, as electors, we should be generally against that, right? Why are you guys going to set a precedent of criminalizing protest? That's why all these AOC Bernie leftists that are 100% for locking these people up are the enemy of our movement. Because what the fuck do you think our revolution is going to look like? Right? So, this is the sympathy come from New York Times. Tucker Carlson repeatedly endorsed a conspiracy theory. So I read before. Now you guys see after that video why it's so ridiculous called that a conspiracy theory. That the Arizona man, so he's from Arizona, he Washington D.C. for some fucking reason. His lawyers representing Ray Epstein's wife are suing Fox News for defamation. I don't know what kind of case they have because the videos they're fucking clear.
Oh, this is about that suit. You think they're just suing Fox News? Why do you think they're just suing Fox News unless they're trying to make this red blue again? Like this is freaking obvious. But let's move to the next story. And this next story, this is going to be a little bit quicker. I don't know if you saw this. Now this is not about AOC. And just follow me here. Just give me 30 seconds to bring the story ahead. Or actually, the title will give it away. Brianna Joy Gray triggers Roland Martin. Now, if you don't know who Roland Martin in the Black community, he's like I don't know. He's like a political talking head. He used to be regular on CNN or MSNBC. I can't remember which one. But oh shoot, did I close? No, here it is. So Brianna Joy Gray tweets this. This is what she said. We saw this earlier. And the reason I didn't read it because I knew it was going to be for this segment. Endorsing Joe Biden now is a betrayal of progressive interests. It was true of Bernie Sanders' endorsement, and it's true of AOC. Quote, I'm sorry, is that a quote? It says, most Democrats don't want Biden to run. Bernie and AOC are tragically out of step with the movement and the moment. Now, that tweet triggers this clown right here, Roland Martin. Now, just Google Roland Martin. You can see his takes on a different thing. He talks about Cornel West running and it's not good. It's this typical black capitalist take on it. You know, Ron DeSantis, you know, that type of fear-mongering type of thing. But listen to what Roland Martin says about Brianna Joy Gray's tweet. He says, "Oh, please, that's utter bullshit, Brianna. You might enjoy losing. The moment Biden won in 2020, we knew he was running for re-election. This ain't The Sims. It's reality. Bernie knows it too. This is the rationale that led to Trump winning and getting 3 SCOTUS picks. This is the black aspiring capitalist class. That's who Roland Martin represents. And he's calling out Brianna Joy Gray, which I think, I mean, is it not a betrayal of progressive interests? He says, oh, please, that's utter bullshit. It's not a betrayal. So he's basically saying, Nick, this is not a betrayal. AOC endorsing Joe Biden is not a betrayal of progressive policies. And then he goes on to say, the reason I know that pretty much is because Bernie Sanders also endorsed him. Ha ha. And of course, he didn't racial her or anything like that. I just thought it was interesting that, you know, a Harvard trained lawyer, she's not like exactly poor, but I wouldn't say she's, you know, millions and millions and millions on top of dollars. But Roland Martin definitely has more money than her. And look who he's stomping for. He's black. If you don't know, Nick, he's black and he's stomping for his class. He's stomping for his class. So any reaction to the tweet, and then we can move to the next one.
Yeah, Bree was on fire because she was triggering a ton of people with this tweet, and it's gonna be very, very a very fun time heading into 2024 because people think that this shit where they like, man, if you support third party, if you don't support Joe Biden, we're gonna get Trump, and they keep saying that shit as if it's effective at all. Like whenever people are saying this shit, we are rolling our eyes. Like how out of touch?
Right. What does that do?
You think that this 2018 line is gonna work, right? So it wasn't just that guy. And I was just scrolling through the quote tweets. I found Joe Walsh. And I've seen this on the timeline and generally. I saw a ton of people go after Bree after this. A ton of neoliberal scumbags. So let's read a few of them. Joe Walsh says, it may be a betrayal of progressive interest, but right now that doesn't matter. So as a worker, your interest does not matter. They say it out loud. These people fucking say it out loud, and people still argue that these people are the lesser two evils, that their clan is the lesser. He's saying in the first line that your interest, your desire to have healthcare, your desire to have housing, your desire to have affordable insulin, that doesn't matter right now. That's what he's saying. Defeating Trumpism is the only thing that matters. Not you having healthcare, not you feeding your family, not you paying your rent. Defeating Trumpism is the only thing that matters. Defending democracy by banning democracy is way, way more important than your progressive interest or my conservative interest.
Now to that point, let me. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead. If you were still. So because I also did a tweet on this, and it was specifically to the point that you're talking about, how this selling point. Oops, this one right here. Yeah, this point of, that's not it. That's the next one we're gonna do though. But this selling point that they try to do of that Donald Trump is bad is no longer an effective talking point. And maybe this is it. Okay, this is it right here. And this is where I say, somebody says that basically in response. Meanwhile, back on Earth, support for West is support for Trump. So somebody said this,
I'm gonna have
right?
so much fun going after these people, dude. It's gonna be a fun ass election because they really think that shit's gonna. They really think that shit's gonna stump us. Let's CJ, he's sending that to you, thinking that shit gonna stump. Like that shit gonna stump people. Meanwhile, he's sending this banger response. Like, bro, you know how easy that is to swat aside now. Like, it is not 2015 anymore. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, so I say, and this tweet did us some good numbers. What did it do? It's at 1,100 right now, so almost 1,200. So it says, and your point is what? Trump bad is no longer an effective talking point. We lived through both presidency, and the Biden presidency is measurably worse. And anytime I start to make these lists, I always forget a bunch of shit. But this is what I came up with at the time. Billions to Nazis in Ukraine, austerity with debt ceiling, brink of nuclear war with China, Russia, the inflation, cocaine, and then I threw in some funny ones like the cocaine in the White House, war crimes with cluster munitions, more funding to ICE, more funding to police. And I could go on and on and on and on to show how it is literally measurably worse, that the Biden presidency is worse. And that is a shocker. There's a lot of people that agree with me, but then there's a lot of people that it blew their mind that I was saying this. And this is one of the people right here. Go ahead.
So I do that every once in a while. I put that. I had a tweet with my list on my my hotspot video, my TikTok video, whatever. Those are very effective, guys. You gotta remember, not everyone is following politics the way we are. Dude, these lists are extremely effective. That's why this tweet is a banger. Every time I do these tweets, is a banger because we assume that everyone knows. Like, there are people who, nigga, they may turn on political Twitter once a week. Yeah. They might watch some shows once. They're not following this shit. So then when they see the comprehensive list, they're like, damn, I didn't know this nigga was that shitty. I didn't know he was that bad. And I think that's one of the reasons why your tweet's doing so well. Yes, we have our audience that knows, but there are a lot of people that just need to see the overall. Yeah, you approved the Real Project. Yeah, you don't support Medicare for what? That's it? No, nigga. Look at this long ass list. And literally limited by character limits. We can easily keep going. Just like you said, when I saw my tweet earlier, I forgot a ton of shit. I was like, here are the 6 most pointed that go into my mind right now. But you can go all day, man. And you're gonna see. I think you should, and many other people too. Keep these tweets up, nigga. Send this tweet every 3 months, every 6 months. Like, here we're buying it. Who you guys voting for? September 2024. I'm gonna send the same tweet out as well. Oh yeah, by the way, this is the record, the guy you guys endorsing. Well, again, the propagandists, they have no shame. Democrats, they have no shame. They're not gonna flinch. But we're not trying to win those people over. Remember, we're trying to win over the people who are being misled by these gaslighters, by the non-voters. They're gonna be like, damn, Democrats are doing this. It's extremely effective. So that's a great tweet.
Yeah. All right. So let's close that and let's get to the next quick talk. It should get a lot quicker. I think I got two more real quick. Let's do which one do I have up here? Oh yeah, Khanna. So I'm gonna show one of your tweets. I kind of showed it earlier by accident, and it's about the Khanna, and this is another one that's getting roasted. Like a lot of people just aren't falling for this anymore, Nick. Like these progressive people that act like they're for us and act like they're for the people, but then they're just not doing those things. Go ahead.
I don't know if you noticed this. Well, I know you noticed the first part because we talked about this on our show. How Bernie Sanders and AOC, they was given, and there's no doubt in my mind, AOC and Bernie Sanders was given strict orders not to talk about Ukraine. Absolutely don't talk about Ukraine. Don't talk about foreign policy because they want the left absent in this discussion. So Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz are allowed to talk about it, but not you. Even if you support it, because you don't talk about, don't give them any ammo, no ammo to use in the weakness of your position. We need you to just silently fall in line. We want people to forget about this. Silently fall in line. That's why Bernie Sanders I forgot exactly. Was it Meet the Nation? I forgot exactly what interview. But when he was asked about Ukraine, like, oh, I'm not actually following that closely.
60 Minutes or one of those. Yeah.
Do you guys really believe that? Bernie Sanders lied. Bernie Sanders, a senator who votes on these things, he told this guy, I don't follow this story that closely. That is what Bernie Sanders is told to say. But for whatever reason, Khanna is allowed to talk about it. Like, Khanna is given the permission, even though he tweeted about the dangers of arming Nazis in Ukraine in 2018. He's an open hypocrite who used to speak up about the issue of funding Nazis in Ukraine. Now he's all for it. He's allowed to mention this. And every single time he mentioned it, he gets ratioed. Google Khanna Ukraine, Khanna NATO, Khanna military. Every single fucking tweet he talks about this, he get ratioed. And that's why Bernie Sanders and AOC was given the strict orders not to talk about this, because you got to maintain face. You got to be the good guy here. Mm-hmm. We can't have you, Bernie. We can't have you, AOC, spearheading this obviously unpopular bullshit. So anyway, I think I made that point. You see,
that's such a great point. That's such a great point, because they in this narrative, blue-red narrative, there has to be perceived heroes, perceived good guys, and they can't get too dirtied up. And that is such a great point. But let's read this tweet from Khanna, where he literally is getting roasted. He's literally getting roasted. But let me read. Khanna says, the fact that we don't have enough conventional artillery to send Ukraine should be a wake-up call. Most of the top 15 steel producers now are Chinese, and we don't have a single one. The U.S. urgently needs a strategy to become a manufacturing weapons superpower. You see how he missed out the weapons part? And he gets absolutely ratioed. This is your response to that. You say, bruh, did Dick Cheney hack your account?
Dude, one of my good friends, and people I got a friend that always send me shit. He sent me this shit. I was like, dude, this has to be a parody account. This is someone who's pretending to be progressive that is calling for increased arms manufacturing. What? You are that far gone. You're so far gone that instead of calling for increased production for people who have more housing, right? More affordable housing, or literally, that's my first thing that comes to mind. Literally, think of any progressive idea. It don't matter. It could be literally anything. Instead of talking about that, you're talking about how we need to increase manufacturing to make more weapons. You're not talking about how we need to increase manufacturing to improve our failing infrastructure. We need more bridges. We need more steel infrastructure for our bridges. No, we need more steel for bombs. So I think this is going to be the quote-unquote left-wing way to addressing this, CJ. So there's this issue of them not having enough ammunition and bombs for Ukraine. So Biden sent cluster bombs. So then now what they're going to say is, man, the only reason Joe Biden had to send cluster bombs because we don't got enough conventional artillery. So we need to have more homemade manufacturing. You guys see how the progressives are taking a pro-war position and they trying to make it a populist position? We need more American jobs to make bombs to kill brown and black people, to fund Nazis. That's the progressive position. Unbelievable. I really think it speaks for itself. So go ahead, CJ. I'll pass.
Yeah, all right. So I just wanted to quickly show you Due Dissidents also chimed in, military industrial complex, too small for Khanna's taste. And this is what Khanna does. So Khanna tweets that out and he knows he's going to get left backlash. So what do he have to do? Wow, I'm showing my neocon policies and ideology. So let me throw some red meat to the clowns that still believe that I'm progressive. So he does this.
This motherfucker, I didn't see this. This motherfucker really tweeted #Medicare for all after posting our. So he posted war criminal ass shit. I need the military industrial complex to be bigger. Then the next tweet #Medicare for all.
Yes. And he does this all the time, and my tweet points this out. He says every American should have health care from the day they are born in this row. So that's what he says. You see here, 272 likes. I see this shit. I'm like, man, I got to call this shit out. Khanna does this all the time. After tweeting about something that shows he is neocon policies, He'll also tweet about Medicare for all or student loan debt right after. So transparent. Ro Khanna is one of the top frauds in Washington, and I absolutely almost doubled him. I'm at 400 likes there. But people, I just needed to make the point because I know people know he's terrible. I don't know if they put in, you know how sometimes you look at two things like separately, and we need to understand what Ro Khanna's doing when he always wants to say, oh, I'm progressive this, I'm progressive this. He did this with Brianha and Bad Faith podcast a bunch of times when he came on and to deliver a terrible answer, then he would be like, but I did this bill, I introduced this bill and blah, 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 blah. It's always to mask his neocon sort of policy.
And the thing is, Ro Khanna, this is what he probably tells himself to go sleep. Well, at least I'm representing the left, right? Well, at least I'm a scumbag, corrupt politician, but at least I'm representing the left. No, Ro, that makes you worse. The fact that you're trying to trick workers, right? Joe Manchin tricking the suburban wine bombs, and any worker that's tricked by him, that's your fault. But Ro Khanna is uses the flowery language of the proletariat in one tweet while promoting neocon policies in another. He wants people to think he's our ally while he represents the interests of the ruling class. That's worse than centrist. And no one else had been saying this until RBN, because before RBN, you have people say, well, at least Ro Khanna, not Joe Manchin. CJ, you remember this era? Where people say, well, yeah, I know AOC did point, but at least AOC, not Nancy Pelosi. Nigga, we done with that shit. Nigga, they are worse. Nigga, they are doing something that's more manipulative, that takes less character than them. Because deep down inside, whether we want to admit it or not, we understand representing your class interest, right? If you come from a rich bourgeoisie community, it may make our blood boil. It may make us upset, but we, on a human level, can understand why they band together. What really don't make sense is how you motherfuckers, not Ro Khanna, because it doesn't include him apparently, but how people like Cory Bush can come from activists, can come from workers, how people like Maxwell Frost can come from activists and workers and then portray them? Nigga, that's some reptile shit. I mean, when I say that, I mean, that's completely inhuman. Like, Nancy Pelosi representing her class makes sense on human interest. You guys selling us out, that's a level of depravity that must be condemned. We can't say shit like they're better than Joe Manchin, they're better than Chris Tillman. Are they really? Are they really? But anyway, let's get to the last story.
Yeah, like this is the last one. Yeah, I do too. I do too. So this one, Jen, I think I always say Psaki, but I think the P is supposed to be silent. So Jen Psaki is what I'll call her. But Jen Psaki, right here, when she was press secretary, calls out the war crime of cluster munitions. Now let's listen to what she says. I wonder how I haven't heard her reply to this or address her saying this anywhere, but let's listen to what she said. This is 35 seconds.
There are reports of illegal cluster bombs and vacuum bombs being used by the Russians. If that's true, what is the next step of this administration? And is there a red line for how much violence will be tolerated against civilians in this manner that's illegal and potentially a war crime?
It would be. I don't have any confirmation of that. We have seen the reports. If that were true, it would potentially be a war crime. Obviously, there are a range of international fora that would assess that. So certainly we would look to that to be a part of that conversation.
Now, Nick, how is it a war crime? And how do we talk about what it does to civilians here? But when then Joe Biden wants to do it, magically this analysis disappears like Homer Simpson in that meme, just disappears into the bush. That's what we have. Go ahead, Nick. You're going to chime in.
Dude, the reaction from liberals and even progressives who endorse Biden regarding this issue has been hilarious because they condemned cluster bombs as a war crime when Putin was using it. And then they will describe what a cluster bomb is, which is essentially a mine that could explode at any given time. There are cluster bombs that were deployed 20 years ago that are still going off in countries. So according to them, the United States decided to send Zelensky cluster bombs because Zelensky pinky swore that the cluster bombs won't be used on civilians. So the question is, knowing how cluster bombs work, how they essentially create landmines, how can you not target civilians when you're deploying those bombs in your own country that will lead to civilian casualties? That makes zero sense. So that's the narrative. Like, well, yeah, Zelensky got cluster bombs, but unlike Russia, they're not going to kill civilians. There is no mechanism in which Ukraine can use these weapons where they can guarantee civilian safety. So all these people that have been saying, oh my God, we got to stand up against Vladimir Putin because he's a war criminal, exposed as frauds once again because they endorsing a war criminal President Joe Biden. So RBN, we trying to change the culture of the left, where for a long time, supporting Hillary Clinton, for example, acceptable on the left, right? You can vote for Joe Biden, you still be accepted in left communities. How about we fucking change that? And we're to be the first ones to be. We are called rude. We are destroying civility politics. But how would they treat us if we vote for Trump? You're voting for a war criminal that's sending cluster bombs that are going to kill innocent Ukrainians. And that's the guy you're endorsing. We need to hold their foot to the fire the same way they will hold our foot to the fire if we endorse Donald Trump. Imagine if I was like, I'm voting for Josh Hawley for senator. I know you guys know I live in Missouri. You guys know how much I will get fucked up for that? Let's treat people who endorse this shit the same. Right? But go ahead, CJ.
Let me read this now. Zoya, shout out to Zoya. Zoya's love. She put together these numbers here that was tweeted out for RBN. Listen to this about cluster bombs. U.S. dropped 260 million cluster munitions in Laos, 1964 to 1973. 400K, okay? This is only 0.4%, 0.47% have been cleared. Do you hear what I said, Nick?
Yeah.
Not even 1%, Nick. 11,000 civilians have been killed. 60% of cluster bombs casualties are civilians undertaking daily activities. 1/3 of all recorded cluster munition casualties are children. 120 countries have signed the Convention on Cluster Munition, which prohibits the use, production, transfer, and stockpiling of weapons. U.S. declined. I'm talking about NATO countries, people. When they say 120 countries, we're talking NATO countries have signed this. Not saying anything about what's happening right here. Got one more tweet to show you about this topic, and this is from, we spoke about it earlier. This is Cornel West.
Yeah, I'm gonna highlight this comment right here, CJ.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Not this tweet, but this comment. Because I always forget to do this when I do this segment. But yeah, this is a great comment by Harold. It is important to note that there has been no evidence of Russia using cluster munitions in the conflict.
Yes.
And I'm glad you mentioned that on the comment because I keep forgetting to bring that up. Thank you for reminding me because they always say that. They're like, oh, Russia using cluster munitions. Where's the evidence of that? The footage? And I haven't seen any. There have been many people reporting that there has not been any. So that'll be one of the things that the United States has been making up. You know, the same thing where they said Russian soldiers are using sexual violence and they're raping kids.
Yeah.
And then, but there's no physical evidence. There quite literally zero evidence of mass Russian soldier rape. And I say mass because obviously war is sloppy. I'm sure something happened somewhere between all this war, right? But it's not mass systemic raping of children. That was debunked. The same way with cluster bombs. There's no physical evidence. Just because the Ukrainian government says it. In fact, if the Ukrainian government says it, it's probably false anyway. But a lot of these stories come up because this is what will happen in regarding the cluster bombs. A Ukrainian official, remember, one of the most corrupt, lying governments in Europe before this war, that was publicly written in the BBC. They said, we have evidence that Russia is killing civilians with cluster bombs. Then the media would say, Ukrainian official says Russians are killing people with cluster bombs. That's how every single Western story about Ukraine has been written. That's why I take literally everything that come out of Russia and Ukraine. And this should be your rule with any war conflict. Anything that's said from either side, take for the grain of salt until you see evidence. The thing with Russia, a lot of Russian claims have physical evidence. Like, for example, Russia claims that there's Nazis on the highest levels of the military, and there's a Nazi infestation in Ukraine. You can literally prove that. These are provable things. We've seen the torture of the Romani people and Muslims, the black people in Russian, ethnic Russian Ukraine. But all the claims that come from the Ukrainian government, you cannot confirm. And that's over and over again. But anyway, CJ, go ahead. There's a banger tweet
Yeah,
by Dr.
this is Cornel West calling out this war crime, and here is Cornel West. It says, "Let's be clear: cluster bombs are crimes against humanity. They disproportionately kill children and innocent people far long after they're dropped. Shame on President Biden for such revolting barbarity. It's barbaric. It means barbaric and shameless hypocrisy. Hashtag cluster bombs are war crimes." Now, I haven't went through the thread, and we're not going to go through it, but I'm sure, Nick, there was a lot of liberals coming after him for calling out Joe Biden. Go ahead. Maybe you can speak to that. Maybe you saw some of it or heard some of it.
So not only this, but there's the tweet, and I'm gonna cover this tomorrow, so I don't want to spoil it. Because you had Dr. Cornel West and RFK Jr. who called out the NATO expansion. Marianne Williamson, the brave progressive fighter, silent, by the way. RFK and Cornel West called this out, and liberals are freaking out. So Dr. Cornel West, the bot farms have been sicked on him. He is deemed a threat. There's another video I may play on RBN Live tomorrow. There's a CNN segment talking about the threat of Dr. Cornel West. So I haven't seen this tweet in particular, but NAFO bots and the liberal establishment is starting to go after this motherfucker now, especially regarding his Ukraine tweets, because you have someone who's actually challenging the executive branch on their policy, not being a fucking pussy like Marianne Williamson, who's running for president but agrees with the president on their foreign policy. Now a pussy like Mike Pence and Nikki Haley, who's running for president but agree with the opposition on everything regarding foreign policy, right? So RFK, despite all my disagreements with him, is a legitimate threat to the executive branch because he's challenging them on the executive branch policies. Dr. Cornel West, running as a third party, is a much bigger threat than RFK because he's challenging the two-party duopoly and he's challenging the executive branch on their power. So this is great to see from Dr. West, and I'm glad they hitting the NATO issue very hard. And this is the NATO tweet I'm talking about. We'll cover this more in detail tomorrow.
Yeah.
But scroll down. Look at some of the comments here. I don't know what your algorithm is like, CJ, but even on my algorithm of based as communists, there's a ton of these fucking fascist enabling banderites everywhere. Right. So this is a good guy. He's praising West. Look
at this freaking clown. Why would
I was gonna cover this tomorrow, but yeah, this is keep.
Well, we don't know. No, we don't have to go. Let's not go in depth. Let's just kind of just hover over the topic. Yeah, but that's like I didn't.
No worries, but I'm gonna cover this tomorrow. Keith Olbermann is literally having a meltdown over Dr. Cornel West. Like, not only did he post it "fuck off" there, he quote tweeted a tweet and post "fuck off" as well. So he's telling Dr. Cornel West to fuck off multiple times on Twitter. But I'm gonna cover this more in detail. Sabby, JB,
we'll cover this tomorrow.
So we all got good zingers on them. Literally, everyone in the world is roasting Keith Olbermann over that. And Keith Olbermann will send a message, and the Democrats will send a message to go after Dr. Cornel West. And this is gonna be a very interesting election to see because of that. But anyway, I'll cover the NATO tweet in more detail tomorrow because RBN Live, I'm gonna cover the NATO summit. This is going to be something I'll be covering throughout the week because the big Biden address is on Wednesday. I don't know if I'll live stream the speech, but I'm definitely going to play the speech because everyone's anticipating this to be the big call of arms, the big rallying cry, the big summit regarding nails, Sweden nails. So we can get more than that. And I'm going to show you guys how liberals are reacting to Dr. West. And I'm actually curious because I've been offline for a while, but I'm interested in seeing the reactions now because RFK also called out the NATO expansion, NATO summit. They're freaking out about that. So there's two candidates that are challenging U.S. imperialism, at least regarding Ukraine, not RFK, on Zionism. But that's very significant. And the media can't completely shut these people out, especially when you can have RFK go on Russell Brand or Jimmy Dore and get more views than the corporate media. So it's definitely very interesting times. But I think CJ Pass, I think we're probably about done.
No,
right?
that's it. Yeah. We're just gonna do super chats, and we do have a what is it called? A Rumble rant. I think a $20 Rumble rant. So when we read our super chats, which we can do now. I mean, we're done with the stories. We just got to make sure we read the Rumble rant. I see one for $20. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
I appreciate the Rumble rants, my friend. Make sure you guys check us out on Rumble. I watch Glenn. I watch Jimmy Shaw on Rumble. I watch Convo Couch on Rumble as well. I like Rumble better. Because I don't watch the screen a lot when I watch the show. You can literally, when you watch Rumble, you can literally put the the video in the background. You can put it on a different tab and the video will still play for phones. So it's good for me because I like to do other stuff while I'm listening to shit. In order for that to work on YouTube, you gotta get YouTube Premium. You can play stuff in the background, other stuff. So I think literally that one reason why if someone has a Rumble and YouTube channel, I'm always gonna watch the show on Rumble. Rumble's way better with ads. I like it better than YouTube in general. But I'm also salty. Because I'm still mad at YouTube for banning us, and I'm still not sure how long this shit gonna last. That's why I started making a TikTok video. I'm like, I can't have YouTube be my only format. Like, this shit is great while it lasts, but who knows how long this shit gonna last. That segment I did with AOC on mandates, this shit's scary as hell. I did all the fucking warnings. I said anything YouTube want to say, but they really want to get rid of you. They get fucking rid of you. But thank you for the $4.99 in K. I love how they had to add the talking points AOC forgot. I don't know exactly the context of that super chat, but I appreciate it, NK. Another one thing for $5, Alexander. Should I invest in Bandera Gold Ltd?
They're talking about the Nazi Banderas. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, Bandera. Yeah, that one. I'm sure that was about. Yeah, thank you for the $5, Alexander. We got another one for Dominic. Thank you for $10. Are you familiar with the folk song called "Love Me, I'm a Liberal"? Love Me, I'm a Liberal.
No, I haven't seen that.
It's amazing what Oates wrote about liberals in 1966 is still relevant today. And that's funny. Like all the people that were sounding off on liberalism, including Malcolm X and Fred Hampton, 100% on point. 100% on point. So it's still. I didn't see this, but man, I bet I tell me that song is a banger. It's a folk song. I know I do country music, but I really wish country music was rebellious the way it used to be. Like what they used to call it wars and shit. We don't got a lot of courageous musicians nowadays. Thank you for $5.
Not at all.
ARJ. These musicians nowadays are more likely to support the fucking war in Ukraine. You could probably got celebrities now that's gonna host concerts for Ukraine. They are fucking cowards. It's unbelievable. Like when you look at what artists used to write about, what they used to talk about, versus what they do now. Now they offer mandates, all big pharma fucking simps. Shame. This is our ARJ. I appreciate your super chats today, my friend. Russia uses fascist cluster bombs, according to the Western media, but Ukraine uses freedom cluster bombs that will maybe not kill convenience, Pinky swear. ARJ with a lot of great banger super chats. And this is the Rumble rant that I saw you copy here. Big shout out to Heru. So if you're on Rumble, we definitely check out your Rumble rants as well. Khanna's wife has huge portfolio of weapon stock. But Khanna, his response to you ever see him ask about this question? Whenever you're like, what about the stocks you have in weapon defense contractors and other things that your family invests in? And he was like, yeah, I know other politicians are corrupt, but not me. Yeah, I know I got stocks. But come on, guy. That's literally his answer. Yeah, have you guys ever seen him answer a question?
Yeah,
his answer is always the same. Yeah, I know it looks corrupt. I know it looks like a duck. It sounds like a duck. But come on, it's me, bro. Come on, man.
Go guys.
That's his answer to the question. And he always move on. Then the interview, he uses the interviewer who usually try and be nice to Khanna because they happy because he come on the show. They don't push back. They're like, oh, well, I guess he says not him. No, one of the motherfuckers one of these days they be like, no, Roka, no, what are you talking about? We're not giving you benefit of doubt because you support Medicare for all. And that's what he does. He's like, oh, you guys know I'm a progressive congressman. I support Medicare for all. No way these stocks influence me. I'm above corruption. And that's the gaslighting that comes from the professional managerial class left. AOC is not corrupt. She's just misguided. No, at what point, at a certain point, you lose the benefit of the doubt. If you had the record that Khanna and the squad had, you don't get benefit of doubt. You got stocks in your portfolio. You're corrupt, motherfucker. But anyway, thank you for all the great chats today. We may got one more. I think, one more super chat that came in the clutch right at the end from Hobbs. Thank you for $11. Are you following Chris Eubanks' run at Wimbledon? ABC won't show highlights for some reason. Don't really follow Wimbledon that much, but I appreciate the super chat.
I'm wondering if it's connected to what we're saying, but we just don't
know.
Yeah,
I don't know if I missed a joke here.
Yeah, we don't know all the information, so maybe there's a connection. We just don't know what it is. Sorry about that.
But anyway, I think that's all the super chats.
Yeah.
I still
And
got.
we'll be
I
back
still
tomorrow.
have.
Go ahead.
I had a NATO summit I'm gonna cover tomorrow, RBN Live. And there's this poll, just previewing our show tomorrow. There's a poll that shows Democrat and Republican support for the war in Ukraine. And it will surprise you, actually. It will surprise. Obviously, the Republicans are against it. But when you look at Democrat voters, even they're kind of like, nah. So we're going to cover that tomorrow. Now you're going to see why the West is so desperate in their messaging regarding Ukraine. And that's why Biden's address on Wednesday is extremely important, because he's going to address the fall off of support that the West got for the war in Ukraine. It'll probably be a big rallying cry. I'm very interested. You got to know I'm a foreign policy nerd, so I'm super interested in that. So we probably cover that a little bit tomorrow. But that's all I have. Make sure you guys make sure you guys like and share and support our Patreon. Aaron, our graphic designer, also help cut and edit our videos. We pay her from our Patreon. She get cut just like every single one of us. So if you want to support our labor and the labor value that we put in to for this to educate you guys, supporting our Patreon is the best way. GoFundMe is another great way to help pay our labor. We are communist socialists here. We believe in paying fair labor value, even if we don't got a lot. That's why I asked. So if we generate value, we can pay our labor, and that's the goal. We don't want to take advantage of anyone's labor. There's a lot of people that want to help RBN, but we want to make sure they're taken care of. So that's what those super chats, that's what the Patreon, that's what that stuff is for. I saw one more super chat just came in, saw my eyes. So I read it. Pay for $20. Ming, hit this blunt, comrades. You guys know I'm always down. You guys know I'm always down. But that's all I have. CJ, I'll pass to you.
So just like as Nick said, everything is scrolling at the bottom. Best ways to support RBN, and it starts with the Patreon, and then the other thing is our Venmo. You can also, if you have Venmo. So these are the best ways to support us. That's all I got, Nick. I'm gonna go ahead and play an outro video, and we will be back tomorrow.
Risky business. Former senior advisor to President Obama, David Axelrod, warning Biden could be facing a third-party spoiler, specifically from Green Party candidate Cornel West. Axelrod tweeting, quote, "In 2016, the Green Party played an outsized role in tipping the election to Donald Trump. Now, with Cornel West as their likely nominee, they could easily do it again. Risky business." This comes as less than 40% of Americans say they view Biden or Trump favorably. Almost 1 in 4 voters, in fact, say they don't like either candidate, which is a key part of Cornel West's pitch.
I just thought about all the creative, imaginative, courageous fellow citizens that I meet, and how do we end up with the two candidates? Trump on the one hand, Biden on the other. Good God. With Brother Trump, you've got a gangster in the objective sense. And with Biden, again, I love the brother, but he's a hypocrite. And he's pushing toward World War III when you talk about what he has to say about China and Russia.
Out front now, Joe Biden, Republican strategist, former Republican candidate for U.S. Senate, and Basil Smikle, Democratic strategist, former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party. Gentlemen, it's nice to see both of you tonight. You were both sort of nodding your heads as we were playing that sound from Cornel West, which was so interesting. He's been a major figure in progressive politics for some time. So now we see where he's going. This recent NBC News poll really stood out to me. 45% of Democrats say they'd consider backing a third-party candidate. Compare that to 34% of Republicans. How concerned do you think Joe Biden should be tonight?
He should be a little concerned. And I'll say this because my affinity with to Cornel West, he's my frat brother. I got my PhD in part because I was drawn intellectually to the heft of his scholarship. So he resonates, and he has resonated particularly with the African-American community for quite some time, for decades, frankly. So if you're Joe Biden, you know this is likely to be a close race, whether it's DeSantis or Trump, whoever it is, that it's those margins in some states, in a handful of states, where this third-party candidate could be effective, particularly when you look at 2022, you see that numbers, especially in the African-American community, were not where the Democrats needed them to be. So if there is concern about how close the general election might be, with memories of Jill Stein from 2016, this should concern Biden and Democrats a little bit, based on the issues that Cornel West will be able to address.
So a little bit of a concern for Biden and the Democrats. What about for the Republicans?
Well, look, I think for me personally, if Democrats seem to think that Cornel West is the problem, then they don't seem to recognize why they lost to President Trump in 2016 in the first place. It certainly was not because of Jill Stein. It was because there was a blue-collar revolt from people who felt as if the Democratic Party had left them behind. And so for me, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you see somebody like Cornel West, who, politics aside, has dedicated his life to justice, the only thing they should have to say to him is thank you. And instead, they send somebody like David Axelrod, the architect of the Obama generation, to go out there and take the hats to him, to try to marginalize him, which I think, again, plays into exactly everything he's talking about, that this is a party that is more concerned with the status quo than they are with the safety and security of Black and brown communities. And I would also say that we can't forget that this is the same Cornel West that, again, was ostracized because he wanted to support somebody like Bernie Sanders that wanted to push a little further, was ostracized because he wanted to have a Black State of the Union back with Tavis Smiley, to talk about what was rightfully owed to a Black community that came out in record numbers to help elect the first Black president. So again, for me, it just confirms what many believe is that the Democratic Party seemingly has forgotten about what they claim is their core conviction, trying to make sure they can deliver results to multi-generational poverty and despair for the people that effectively are the bedrock of that party.
It's interesting. I was struck today with the fact